Thank you for staying. Let's get into our first story. And the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition has revealed that it will take government at least 18 months to fully implement recommendations of the Technical Committee on the Privatization of the Electricity Company of Ghana. The 7-member committee, which was set up by the sector minister to look into the matter, has presented its report with 3 key recommendations. But it is emerging now that the full realization of this may take a while. James Adveji has more.
The Electricity Company of Ghana has continued to sink in debt for many years as persistent government interventions do not seem to work. The 7-member committee instituted by the Energy Minister John Jinapo to advise government on a possible privatization has recommended entity concession, multiple lease and service franchise to get ECG out of the debt. Speaking on the latest Joy News National Dialogue on the matter, Deputy Director in charge of power at the Energy Ministry, Suleiman Abubakar, says it will take government at least 1.5 years to implement the recommendations.
We want to also hasten, but surely. So you're looking at least 18 months.
18 months before you take a decision.
No. I mean, this is part of the decision-making process. But we'll have to engage. This preliminary work that has been done, Honorable Minister has actually indicated we need to, in drilling down these things, there's some further work that needs to be done on some cost-benefit analysis. You don't just hand over ECG or anything to the private sector without setting some baselines, knowing your assets, their worth, and negotiating. And depending on the option chosen, if you're going to maybe have zones or concessions, all of these have to be, be factored in. And critically, the transaction advisory service, and then the engagement of transaction advisory service. So you're not looking at, all of these things could take, give or take 12 to 18 months before we get the PSP going.
But the Public Workers Union has continued to reiterate its strong objection to the move. Dr. Nyakunwotu is Director of Labor Research and Policy at the TUC.
Our position is that we are against privatization. We are also against the so-called PSP, and that we see the PSP and privatization as one and the same. And we explained to the committee that, in the language of people who want to privatize, privatization is a very bastardized terminology. In the last 40 years, across the world, people have demonstrated against it. Across the world, the evidence is that it doesn't really work. So today, those who want to privatize will not call it privatization. They will find a nice terminology, private sector participation and all of that. And for us, we are not fooled by the changing dynamics or the terminology. So we say that the two are one and the same thing, and we will oppose it.
Former Commissioner of the Public Utility Regulatory Commission, Dr. Nida Kwasante, says the problems of the power sector will not go away unless revenue mobilization is improved.
As for the problems, there are many, and we can recount all of them. But at the very heart of it, and I think the former MD alluded to the fact that the revenue that was being collected was insufficient for a number of reasons. But no matter what the reasons are, as long as you do not collect the revenue that is required to run the sector, nothing else will work properly.
On the matter of the missing ECG containers, former Managing Director Abdubik Mahama has refuted allegations and abandonment of materials at the port.
It's very easy for somebody to say that it's over-procurement. In the life of a utility, is there a statement like that? Heavy is the head. I found myself in a place where you sat in the chair, there are over 800 or 900 projects screaming for materials. You didn't have the requisite revenue at that point. That's what I'm saying. If they had called to ask for the requisite documentation that covers this, what led to this? What led to that? Why were you thinking this way? Again, I said we had an.
So it is a project. Is a project that push you to do the over procurement?
Look, you can't call it over procurement because the thing was there, the projects were there. They have to be completed. Or I should also leave them and say, because I came to meet them.
This was his position on the alleged auctioning and repurchase of some of these containers by the ECG.
I'll be honest with you. under my tenure, I never ever procured any container back. Under my tenure, when I heard of a container auction, I wrote to complain about it. Again,
but when containers auctioned,
Minister, it came to my notice about some containers that were auctioned that I wrote. Now, about the minister, the minister was working on a report. And I keep saying it, that the team he put together failed him.
Meanwhile, government continues to engage other stakeholders in the power sector, hoping to see a smooth privatization of the power distributor. James Savage's report for Joy News.
Africa's integration agenda must be fast-tracked. The words of renewed Pan-Africanist Professor PLO Lumumba. And the renowned lawyer and chairman of the PLO Lumumba Foundation has arrived in Ghana ahead of the University of Education Winnipeg's lecture series, where he is expected to deliver his remarks as a distinguished scholar. Head of the Joy News International Affairs Desk, Blessed Suga, went to meet him at the Kotoka International Airport, where he arrived sometime yesterday.
Is back to a place he loves to visit. For any other person, Accra may just be a city. But for Professor PLO Lumumba, it is the heart and soul of Pan-Africanism, owing to Ghana's first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
The heart of the continent of Africa, and I dare say the home of the great Osagi of Kwame Nkrumah. And it gladdens my
But this year, Professor Lumumba is on a more specific mission to deliver a lecture at the University of Education Winnipeg on empowering minds and shaping futures for 21st century education.
It gladdens my heart that we come here to talk about education at the University of Education in Winnipeg. And I believe that that is as topical can be if Africa is to realize the dividends of the fourth and fifth industrial revolution.
In your own view, how can Africa's academia contribute to the change that we want to see?
I believe the time is now for the academy and the academicians to recognize that politics is too serious a business to be left to transactional politicians. And in order to introduce what I've said and called ad nauseum political hygiene, the academician must descend from the ivory tower and be present in the spaces where decisions are being made.
Recent geopolitical developments have prompted calls for the acceleration of the African integration agenda, a call the Pan-Africanists support wholeheartedly.
Without doubt, I mean, if you look at the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, it is nothing new. It is the same thing that Nkrumah talked about in 1963. You're already too late. The fact that I can't move from Addis Ababa to Dakar in Senegal without producing my passport is unfortunate. I ought to be moving from Nairobi to Accra to Monrovia as if it was one country. That is the only way in which we are going to unlock the potential of this continent. So fast track is the correct word.
Ghana's political transition this year witnessed the swearing-in of John Dramani Mahama as the 6th president of the Fourth Republic. For Professor PLO Lumumba, wishing an old friend good luck should be in order.
You have a great country, and I am of the view that you can make it even greater. To my good friend John Dramani Mahama, it is not easy, but if it is easy, it is not worth doing. We wish you well for the benefit of the people of Ghana.
The University of Education Winnipeg Lecture Series will commence on April 11th this year and is expected to attract government officials, members of the academia, and other stakeholders. Blessed Sugan's report for Joy News, Accra.
In a bid to tackle the scourge of climate change in Ghana, the Multimedia Group Limited, in partnership with the Climate and Development Knowledge Network, has teamed up with the Ministry of Climate Change and Sustainability to drive climate action, strengthen capacity building, and enhance the dissemination of climate-related information. Elsie Esiedua Kisiedu has more in this report.
Speaking at the meeting, Joy News Senior Editor Evans Mensah highlighted the crucial role of the media in climate change mitigation. He emphasized the collaboration between the media, global organizations, and the government presents a powerful strategy for driving meaningful climate action.
Finally, we have a dedicated government ministry for it. We've been collaborating with the private sector, doing this. We're actually extending our collaboration to international organizations, again through CDK and bringing their networks in the many doors that this has unlocked for us, which is very useful. And there we have the ministry. It's just a natural place to go next.
Prince Ansah, CDKN's country engagement lead, shared valuable insight into the organization's work at global, regional, and national levels. He stressed that the importance of mobilizing knowledge and strengthening capacity and employing innovative dissemination strategies to effectively engage diverse audience on issues of climate change and sustainability.
We've used creative things like poetry, drama, some at the local level, some at the national level. With young people, we've used games. We create games, normal games for them to play, better strategy games, all those type of things. People always ask, what's my role in this climate change comment? I've heard it, but what's my role in it? So we try to build capacity of key stakeholders to use that particular type of knowledge. And it's whether at the local level or at the national level.
In his remark, Seidu Yusufu welcomed the delegation and highlighted the ministry's key priorities, including the establishment of a climate change and sustainability hub and the deployment of climate change officers across various sectors.
If you don't have a coordinating point, a central point, somebody who will envelope these pieces of policies and initiatives into one envelope, for decision making, what are we doing? So we're looking at a situation that will begin to open a conversation to have a climate and sustainability hub in Ghana. I've been talking about this. This hub is going to be a one-stop center.
The partnership between Multimedia Group, CDKN, and the ministry sets a promising future in addressing one of the most pressing challenges of our time. LC Kisiedu's report read to you.
After 50 years of operating without a dedicated space for children, the Kwesimintim Government Hospital has finally received its first ever pediatric ward. Now, the new facility, funded by the GOS Limited Company, not only addresses a critical health gap in the municipality, but also promises healthier beginnings for children in the Western region. Natalia Kwanza now reports.
For 5 decades, the Kwesimintim Government Hospital has catered to children without a designated space, treating them alongside sick mothers in a shared ward. But today, history has changed.
For 50 years, since the inception of this hospital in 1974, we've operated without a dedicated pediatric block, leaving us with no other choice than to keep the sick children with our sick mothers on the same ward. This increasing the risk of going home with other diseases aside the one they came here with. Today we proudly turn a new page. For this first time, we now have a modern facility designed specifically for the care, privacy and dignity of our young patients from birth to 12 years of age.
The initiative is part of a broader commitment by GOS Limited Company, also known as SLB Africa, to deliver sustainable and impactful change to the communities where it operates.
At SLB, we understand that sustainability means more than just addressing our day-to-day operation. We want to create long-term, meaningful change in the community where we live and work. And healthcare is one of the most impactful areas where we can make a difference. Today, with the launch of this ward, we are helping to provide access to critical pediatric care for thousands of children in this community. So, when we look at these initiatives, it's significant when you look at the global context. A recent United Nations report revealed that nearly 5 million children under the age of 5 died last year. with the majority of those deaths occurring in sub-Saharan Africa. The healthcare gaps in this region are staggering, and access to proper care can mean the difference between life and death.
The facility stands not just as an investment in healthcare infrastructure, but a legacy that could shape the lives of thousands of children in the Western region for years to come.
And as a region, maternal and child health care remains a priority area. In almost all our facilities, the critical areas that need to be improved are child health care infrastructure and equipment. Our children are our future, so we must care for them with an eagle's eye and delicate hands. We are therefore grateful to GOS Limited for donating this ultra-modern pediatric unit to the Kwesi Government Hospital, Yedamase.
From sick wards to sanctuaries of healing, Kwesi now offers children a space that reflects their value and right to quality health care. For Joy News, in Athalia Kwansa, Kwesi.
Let's head now to the Assin South constituency, where some concerned residents have strongly expressed their support for their Member of Parliament, Reverend John Ntim-Fodjo, after his home in Accra was invaded by NIB operatives to arrest him. Echoing the words of the residents at a press conference, the spokesperson of the group, Edu Jemfi, called the prosecution of the Member of Parliament a means to silence his constituents, describing the actions of the NIB operatives as an attempt to undermine the foundations of democracy. Abigail Essel Nkrumah has more in this report.
Concerned constituents of Assin South constituency in the Central region are affirming their support for their Member of Parliament, Reverend Ntim-Fodjo, after his residence in Accra was invaded by NIB operatives to effect his arrest. Speaking on behalf of the constituent during a press conference, their spokesperson, Edu Jemfi, condemned the actions of the NIB and described the actions as an attempt to undermine the foundations of democracy, calling on well-meaning Ghanaians to speak out against what they call an abuse of power.
We strongly condemn this action and view it as a direct attack on the good people of Assin South, whose democratic will and voice Reverend Ntim-Fodjo represents. Any attempt to prosecute him is an attempt to silence the entire constituency and to undermine the very foundation, the very good foundation of our democracy. We, the proud people of Assin South, stand firmly with our MP, Honorable Reverend John Ntim-Fodjo. The allegations he has raised regarding to national security be investigated independently and thoroughly. We reaffirm our support for our MP and assure him that Assin South constituency concerned citizen is proud of him and we stand by him irrespective of the matter that is coming ahead.
Some residents, Benjamin Selassie Mensah and Richard Loko, also condemned the actions of the NIB operatives and called for more investigations to be done into the allegations.
Why are you doing this to him? When Akufo-Addo was in power, did you see any MP being ganged like this? Why send tax to his house, to his home to attack him? This is uncalled for. Yeah. We are not accepting this. Yes. President Mahama should talk to his boys to stop this intolerance that they are showing in this nation. Our MP is the apple of our eyes. We are not going to sit down for any government to intimidate him. No intimidation.
I heard people call him all sorts of names. He's a reverend, Reverend Boko and the rest. He's a reverend. That's why he's speaking truth to power. And we, the residents of Assin South, believes there's some sort of fishy deals. That was why videos were reproduced to deceive the public. We call upon the government to rather come down and investigate into the allegations. You don't just conclude something is a lie without you bringing us the truth. What is the truth if you are calling the person who alleged a liar?
From Assin South, Abigail Nkrumah reports for Joy News.
The Yerina Alhaj Swalihu Momin Sungwo II has expressed profound appreciation and gratitude to President John Dramani Mahama for nominating Alhaj Nura Issa Dawana as the WAM Municipal Assembly Chief Executive Officer. In a press conference read by Secretary Ahmed Abdullahi Yaya, the Yerina acknowledged the president's confidence in Alhaji Dawana, describing the nomination as a singular honor. The Yerina assured the president that Alhaji Dawana would work diligently to achieve his development agenda. Joy News' Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam reports from Wa.
The nomination of businessman and seasoned politician Alhaji Issa Nura Dawana for the position of the Wa Municipal Chief Executive by President John Dramani Mahama has been widely welcomed in the Wa municipality. Leading the charge is Tarairi, where he hails from, and for that matter, a member of the Yerina clan. Yerina Alhaji Salu Mumin Sungumu, at a press conference in Wa, praised Alhaji Dawana's unblemished record and commitment to development, expressing confidence that he will collaborate with stakeholders to take the Wa municipality to new heights. Ahmed Abdullah Yaya is the secretary to the Yerina, and he addressed a press conference on his behalf.
Nura Issa Dawana is a household political figure within the Wa metropolis and beyond. He has the rare opportunity and the enviable record of serving as the Deputy Regional Secretary of NDC Party for 12 consecutive years with unblemished record. The Yerina has no doubt that Alhaji Nura Issa Dawana will collaborate with all relevant stakeholders to take the development of the Wa metropolis to another level.
The Yerina and his elders also expressed gratitude to President John Dramani Mahama for the nomination. The Yerina is hopeful that he will be overwhelmingly endorsed by the members of the Wa Municipal Assembly and therefore assure the president of working to achieve his developmental agenda.
The Yerina and his elders are deeply indebted to you for this singular honor done to their son. The Yerina therefore wishes to assure you on behalf of his son that he will work assiduously to help ensure that your resetting agenda is accomplished.
He concluded by praying for the president's continued success and blessings. Alhaji Nura Issa Dawana, before the nomination, has been the Deputy Upper Regional Secretary of the NDC in the last 12 years. Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam. Wa.
Well, it's time now for our business update. Up next. Let's get into our stories now. And the Minister for Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, Elizabeth Ofosu-Ejari, has expressed confidence in the government's ability to renegotiate the 10% tariff imposed on Ghana by the Trump administration following a 90-day suspension announced yesterday. Speaking at a stakeholder engagement in Accra to assess the impact of the tariff across various sectors, Mrs. Ofosu-Ejari emphasized the urgent need to strengthen Ghana's trade-related infrastructure in order to fully leverage the opportunities presented by the African Continental Free Trade Area.
Night, before I went to bed, the United States paused its earlier arrangements, which placed all its trading partners under a uniform 10% tariff band for 90 days. This 90-day reprieve from the reciprocal tariff arrangement provide us with the opportunity to renegotiate terms for a potential reduction, and in my heart, 0%. The 90-day pause also provides us with the opportunity to assess the full impact of the tariff and adopt various strategies to mitigate the immediate impact on our trade and economy.
Now, the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana has called on the government to prioritize building the capacity of local manufacturers to produce more active pharmaceutical ingredients, that is APIs, in order to grow the industry. According to the PSG, the country's pharmaceutical industry has the potential of contributing significantly to the economy, but this can only be achieved if local manufacturers are equipped with the necessary capacity to produce more APIs. Reverend Dennis Senna Awiti is the Executive Secretary of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana.
We are still growing, we are still developing. I think with the right policies,
we should be able to gradually develop and get to that stage. Amongst even the local pharmaceutical importers, there is a strong push for those who are importing their own brands of medicines from elsewhere, India, China, and the likes, to now concentrate on doing local contract manufacturing, and they are engaging the local manufacturers and then to be able to do that. So, and while others are also seriously looking at building their own pharmaceutical manufacturing plants here. So, for me, I think that Rome was not built in a day. We should, once we are consuming, we should look at the things that we consume, things that we need most, and we start from there and build the industry. Currently, between 30 to 40% of all our local needs in terms of pharmaceuticals are manufactured locally.
And it's a wrap for AM Business and, of course, AM News in general. But we'll leave you now with our commodities market. Are you thinking of a rewarding investment you can engage in? Waylead Company Limited is your preferred choice for such an investment. I'll tell you more about Waylead Company in the course of the show, because there's so much more to bring to bear on that. But they, thankfully, are sponsoring us. Let's get into the news review now, and joining me in the studio, Kwame Nkrumah Botsio. He is General Secretary of the CPP. Should I add the other one? Oh, let me add it. Oh, just for this morning. Okay. So we know Honorable Kubash. And we also have former president of the Ghana Journalists Association in the person of, I'll not mention the R1. I feel money. I'm being very mischievous this morning. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Great Ben.
Thank you for joining the conversation.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
And you're looking good.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll take your quick thoughts on some of these developments that have been with us over the last week. I mean, there's so much to discuss, isn't there?
So much disease cycle.
There's the airport saga, whether someone is telling the truth or not. Where's your evidence? This morning, I mean, from yesterday, some residents of Assin South standing behind their MP, Reverend Intim Fojo. Others also saying, hey, do you have a clerical collar? Where's the truth? And everything in between. Then we have Bawku.
So Benny,
that's
precious life.
I mean, there are so many things. We can't even, I don't know where to start, but I'll leave it to you gentlemen to do that. I'll start with you, Afil Moni.
I will take a brief look at the confluence of issues of gargantuan proportions, nationally and internationally, which are dominating the media space. And these issues, as you touch on, relate to the seizure of the biggest consignment of cocaine in the history of this country, worth $350 million.
Thankfully, it was confiscated.
Thankfully, it was confiscated. And it could
imagine if this had gone into the system.
To the Director General of NIB, Charles Kipo. He was really instrumental in arresting the dealers and attempt to arrest the MP for Assin South, who made an allegation about the landing of airmade aircrafts with illicit drugs and money yet to be proven. And then other issues. These gargantuan issues call for gargantuan determination to unravel the truth. And this, so we should do nothing to erode the fundamental underpinnings of our democracy. Democracy started as one of accomplishments in Africa. But the reality is that our democracy is still on the stilts. So nothing should be done to destroy its skittish foundation. And we also ought to be very careful. In fact, there's a need more than ever before to ingest the highest dose of circumspection, sensitivity, and responsibility in all our public discourses. Because the whole world is watching. Ghana is now the spotlight of international attention because of these allegations of cocaine and all that. And the endless swapping of accusations by the ruling party and the opposition. These are all issues we can call tensions to rise. And when tensions, assume some high voltage level, then they can crystallize in something else. So we should be careful.
All right. Later, when we get into that story in the publisher, Bawumia slams Mahama over NIB rates, I'll share some thoughts because, like I was mentioning yesterday, while you want to protect every citizen, no matter how, from the least to the greatest, from the baby born today, that baby has rights. Even inside the womb, as you know, after you cross a certain point, that baby has rights to the greatest person. We also can't say that our privileges extend beyond, everyone else's. But we'll get there, and then we'll pick apart the issues. Yeah. Kwame Nkrumah, about you.
I would just quickly combine two issues to continue from where Senior left off. This cocaine issue is a very serious, very serious. I mean, drugs are a very destructive thing in any society. We shouldn't just look at the value and think, well, it's illegal money that somebody is making, but the lives that are affected by it. And Ghana, we already have a drug problem that we refuse to acknowledge. We have the tramadol issue, we have the red
opioids and
the opioids. It's a very serious. A lot of these young men at the traffic lights cleaning the windscreens and all that. A lot of them, you can see that they are not themselves. But I think there's still hope to deal with this issue. I remember during His Excellency, former President Kufuor's time, we had the MV Benjamins, and I mean, there are a lot of issues with cocaine, but he was able to successfully deal with it. And I don't know why it has resurfaced at this point. I'm not sure. It could be that there are times where the dealers feel with the change in government, they can quickly, it could be anything. But it's a fact that we do have a cocaine problem on our hands. Whether it is at the airport, I have no proof of that. But at least the Takoradi one has been proven. It was an articulated truck. The driver has probably been arrested, and we have to get to the bottom of it. And I'll also quickly touch on the burning of Honorable Ayariga's house at Bawku. I really sympathize with the indigents of Bawku, and if it has reached their MP, that means nobody is safe. And I think the state and the citizenry should come together to do something about these issues in that part of the country, which has lingered for a very long time.
Just on that bit, because we'll get into Intim for Joy and the rest, but something else that's on my mind is, Ghana has for, let's say, 20 years, from the Kufuor era, and then bit by bit, at a point, we were seen to be not a narco state, but some conduit and that. We were blacklisted at a point. And then it was lifted. And I mean, through these last 2 decades, we've suffered some issues here and there, drug busts. You remember the famous Kokunte?
Yes.
But my curiosity is it that over the last 2 years, for example, if you look at it, within the first 3 months or so of this year, there are these busts. Is it that something has changed, which is why we are getting the busts? I'm talking security. Or is it that all of a sudden more is happening? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Because if you follow the BBC documentary that was made on the opioids, it was said that Ghana had been used as a transit point. And then from here, I mean, it comes through the port, and then they transited to Nigeria and other places, which meant that we were causing problems, not just for ourselves, but for our neighbors because of our sloppiness. So is it that the security apparatus is stronger now and they are looking at certain things? Or is it that it was not happening before and now all of a sudden it's happening? What do you think?
Maybe the law can look at it. But before he does, I think credit should go to our security agencies, particularly the Director General of Bureau of National Intelligence. And what I know about this story is that the drugs came from the high seas. They were loaded at midnight. How they evaded arrest on the high seas and they got on land is an issue of great mystery, so which ought to be investigated. Thankfully, they had a tip-off. The driver was arrested, admitted that he had done 2 trips, so he was arrested on the 3rd one, and he charged 50,000 cedis for each trip, so already he had bagged 100,000 cedis. So he was on the 3rd trip to make 150,000 cedis within days. And it was a tip-off which did the trick. And we also heard that there were moves, some certain moves to replicate the Kokote story, but it never happened. But this is, one has to be very stingy with spilling the beans.
Spilling the beans.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting in that regard? Because we have, you remember when we were talking about the opioids bit, we have a rehab problem. How many rehab centers do you know in Ghana? So if you go off a certain
rehab, it's so expensive.
The cost. I remember there's this musician, for the sake of privacy, I don't want to mention his name, but I think Hammer of the Last Two and others, because back then, and they went to his aid because he needed rehab and all of them. I think he even released a song, which I've listened to, and then he slipped, back. I mean, it's difficult. And that is why recently when we had the conversation, I think one of the medical people was telling us that don't get there. Because when you get there, the impact on your brain and even how long it will take to come back and the difficulty. Yeah. And sometimes it's even genetic because some people are more able to overcome it than others. Others are naturally more, disposed to suffer the worst consequences. Yeah. That is one. Then you look at this bit. How do we police our territorial waters? Our Navy. You go to other countries and, because they know they are hotspots all over, from the coast of Italy, Spain, all of these, because usually people traveling through Libya would use some of those places and try to connect to Europe. How are we policing our territorial waters? You have Chinese and others always fishing with trawlers in our waters. They are taking what is ours, impunity, crossing back and selling them. And what are we doing about it? You remember the piracy incident in recent times, where some of them, that's some of what happens. So it's really difficult dealing with it. But I think at the ports, more can be done.
Sure.
At the ports, more can be done.
And more should be done.
More ought to be done. Yeah. Let's get into the papers. Let's start with your stories.
Ghanaian publisher Bawumia slams Mahama over NIB race. The former vice president and leader of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Alhaji Mahamudu Bawumia, has strongly condemned recent actions by the state security agencies, accusing the Mahama-led administration of using them as tools to harass political opponents. Reasons petitioners want the CJ removed. This is one story of huge interest. Court opposed an order of presbytery, 25,000 city costs awarded against the petitioner. So if I may use my latitude to go to the story for the removal of the Chief Justice, and the story says, Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Isaba Tokuno is facing mounting pressure from 3 separate petitioners calling for her suspension and removal from office. The calls for her removal, directed at President Mahama, come amid a series of allegations ranging from constitutional breaches and abuse of office to financial misconduct. This is what the story says. And we also have this story, Ghana must respond strategically to U.S. tariffs. This is an issue which is also trending. And Donald Trump, His Excellency, is accused of upending the global trade system. And his critics...
I mean, we've heard that there's been a bit of a pause on that for about 3 months or so.
Yeah.
The trade minister has also spoken to that effect. But I think, look, we must just learn from this. Let's assume they still impose it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Don't assume, oh, okay, maybe that, no. Let's worst case scenario. Sometimes it's good to work with a worst case scenario and move up from there. Because if you raise your hopes and they are dashed, you will be left at the mercy of, and it's a wake-up call for all of us.
Yeah, and to quote this friend lawyer, Michel Montaigne, says, I learn little from good examples, but more from bad examples which serve as daily lessons. So these are lessons fountain of lessons we ought to drink as a nation and as a continent. Yeah.
Any other stories you'd like to get into or would you like to react to that before he moves?
Yes, especially the tariff issue.
Right.
I agree with you perfectly that we have to imagine a worst case scenario. Yesterday, I listened to almost the whole of a program about ECG yesterday evening.
And that's a fantastic program.
The National Dialogue.
Yes.
And I learned...
Anchored by Elton John Brobe.
I learned so much. One of the points I was made was how ECG purchases its inputs in dollars.
Yeah.
And yet charges in cedis. So as the exchange rate is going, that means the statement used by one of the panelists was that you wake up a millionaire and the next day it's all gone.
Yeah.
We have to wean ourselves of this dependency on foreign currency and the West, and we can't be at the mercy of these tariffs. Even if the tariffs are reduced to zero, as people are pushing for, or even negative, as long as our apron strings are tied to this type of economic system, this dependency on the West, we are not going to get anywhere. So we have to imagine a worst case scenario. Let's even proceed as if we've also got 150% tariffs like China has. Let's look within. Let's see how we can cut our umbilical cord from this system. It will not get us anywhere. I mean, it's a story that I'm really following closely. And I think the ambassador, Ghana's U.S. ambassador to Ghana, she's done quite a lot to reassure us. I'm happy about it. But we have to realize that every state looks at its own interest. So no matter how well America treats us, they wouldn't want a position where we will not be dependent on them. We have to wake up and smell the coffee and then kick against the same neo-colonialism that our founder Kwame Nkrumah fought against. You see, all his writings are turning out to be a reality. I mean,
and you know what's interesting? One of the areas where he wanted to get us self-sufficiency in is where, after what? Just about 6 decades, we're still crumbling. Power.
Exactly.
That's why he built Akosombo.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
That's why he put up Akosombo. At the time, Ghana's population was what, 6 million? People said he had gone crazy.
Yes.
But he foresaw.
Exactly.
He realized that the population wouldn't stay at 6 million thereabouts. It would grow.
And
if it grew,
at that time,
you would have to meet the energy needs. That's why he foresaw and went for Akosombo.
It was a money spinning avenue, because revenue spinning avenue for Ghana, because we're exporting to neighboring countries.
Burkina Faso and all of that.
I forgot that we used to export power. I mean,
even in the 90s, we were exporting power. And I think even until recently, we've still been doing a few things until we had a power situation, and then you remember the directive to cut off. But what that also means is you close revenue doors that you may not be able to reopen. Because if you close the door to me, of course, Burkina Faso, I'll have to power my economy. I'll go to another country. If they are able to supply me, by the time you come back, you may not have a contract. You get it. It's just a convoluted problem. In fact, yesterday, the former ECG MD said You cannot have a multi-billion-dollar industry or multi-billion CD industry in Ghana and not invest in it. And he was saying that in the first term of Akufo-Addo, there was zero investment in ECG. But then he adds, nobody stops to calculate what portion of ECG's debt is due to forex losses. I think that was not right, though, because indeed we've spoken about it. But it's a problem. It's a conundrum for the PURC because you also can't say that once you are incurring these forex losses. Let's say you buy in dollars and yet the CD keeps eroding and you are paid in CDs. What do we do about it? I know with the PURC's permutations, there's a window, a bit of an add-on for some of these forex losses. It's not enough. But where do we go from there? Because if we want to follow this as well, it would mean that we'll be increasing tariffs today you are paying 50 CDs a month. Next month you're paying about 65 CDs. You see? And we all know where the currency is. You can't just immediately bring it down to where we would want it to be. It's interesting. And I'll just end here. I was looking yesterday at some bills I had paid for school in somewhere in the UK, right? I did a distance study and I looked at how much it was then to pay for, how much was it? I think 1,000 and something pounds. I had spent about 9,100 CDs. And this is how many years ago? This is maybe 2016, 2017, if I get it right. How much is that in CDs today? That's about 20,000 CDs. So you see the difference.
More than 100%.
It's crazy. I was just going through some documents and I saw it. You know, sometimes it hits you like, hey, I paid this for that amount and today if I want to get that same amount, how much is it going to cost me? It's crazy. It's crazy. Well, let's get into other stories. So I feel money. You wanted to?
I thought you had finished.
Government will roll out new SIM card registration from July 1. The government will roll out SIM card registration and central equipment identification register from 1st July 2025. This has become necessary to remove the shortfalls in the previous SIM card registration undertaken under the administration of the MPP. The shortfalls include non-matching of the registrant's biometric data with SIM cards and no verification at the back end. But this, many people are yet to come to terms with the rationale for this SIM card registration. So this underlines the need for more education for people to be on the same page with Sam George's ministry, because we recall the hellish time we endured in registering SIM cards, and if Ghanaians are going to be subjected to the same hellish experiences, then there's a need for thorough education so that people will understand why they need to re-register their SIM cards and why it will pay off to spend some time and money to do that.
The sector minister has said, I think I read yesterday, he was saying something about Ghanaians enjoying special data bundles on some holidays and all of that. But beyond all of that, I think we should get to the point where whether it's the national health insurance or SIM cards, we should just have a system that works so that we don't have this rollover, a new administration comes and, there were these little bits. I understand what he's saying, but how do we, are you going to go through this process again? What is this going to mean? I remember back then, some people were, Charlie, I'm busy. You now have to rush to your supplier, your telco, and go and sit there, queue for hours sometimes. You're losing business hours and all of that. I don't know what shape or form it will take, but I think as a nation we have to get to the point where
he claimed that it
will
be tech-driven, devoid of hassles or long queues at the offices of the mobile network operators. And this is a word of difference between
let's hope so.
This one and the next one. So
let's hope so.
There's a need for us to be educated and convinced that it's worth embarking on this journey once again.
Because honestly, if it's a simple process, fine, but I don't want to do this.
It was a very stressful thing.
It can be stressful. I remember when I was doing mine the last time when Ursula, there were some deadlines that were, Charlie, it wasn't easy. You know, because sometimes work hours and sneaking out, and you go, well, not sneak, but go out there hoping that within a certain window you can finish. You are not done. You have to come back. You have to go the next
time. Is money.
Can be stressful. Can be stressful.
Yeah.
But let's hope for the best.
Unless they are going to give a very long period. I don't know how many weeks or months they are going to do it for, but
all we know at least is that it will start in July.
On July 1st. Because I think if they give a very long period, I mean, it may help.
But can the telcos also facilitate it in a way? You see, the problem too is if there are other mechanisms where you can maybe not necessarily physically come there.
Yeah.
It may be helpful.
Yeah.
But there's fraud and all of that. So sometimes, our systems are not that far advanced. And sometimes the fear is that some people may do certain things and you will have the wrong information. Then, for all you know, another administration will come and say, we have to do this over again.
There's a terminal point, certainly.
Are you wrapping on that paper?
TUC reiterate opposition to privatization of ECG. This is a story which is being rehashed. TUC is TUC. Ideologically speaking, they are opposed to anything privatization because it comes with the job losses and all that.
I think they've mentioned, I suspect I think it was the TUC mentioning that sometimes there's talk about, politicians talk about, they use different words to still talk about privatization. They found different ways of saying,
they consider privatization and private sector participation as one and the same.
But is it one and the same though? Private sector participation versus privatization, because there are different
different models of different models.
But I think it's also good sometimes when you have some private sector investment to kickstart. But what I've always said, and at least I think when those groups met and they came out with 8 suggestions, which were trimmed down to 3, the fact that we can't lose a national asset like ECG. If you have less of a stake in it, the other party which is coming will not be coming for your good. They'll be coming for money. So let's ensure that we have the larger stake always, and we have control over what is.
Absolutely. They need to square. They need to rake in more revenue to the protection of our national interests.
Okay. Any reactions? Are you done there so that I can go?
I think.
I think one reaction is if you listen to the likely causes TUC gave for the issues at ECG, they spoke about. I think I listened to it on radio. I heard sometimes you would have some corrupt practices regarding the meters, and you'd have indiscipline, people not turning up for work or not doing the work they're supposed to do. And I think if we take a closer look at sorting out those things, we may be able to avoid this privatization. And my mind went to how sometimes the biggest entities that owe ECG bills are actually the state.
Exactly.
The state entities. You understand me? And you're going to have.
Last year they were robust attempts. Last year they were robust attempt to.
And you're going to have this privatization
to recover what institutions owe them. And they made some gains. They rake in billions of cedis, but they went to sleep. And they are back to square one. So,
exactly. Exactly.
Well, interesting stuff. We'll get into other papers now. But before we get there, let me just also take a quick mention that there is also, some interesting stories in the Ghanaian Times I'll be getting to in a bit. Kwame Nkrumah, let's get into the news center now.
So I have NDC doubles down on pledge to quickly end double track. And we also have TUC vows to resist ECG privatization. MTN unveils year-long strategy to transform MCs. Baumia decries security intimidation, harassment. And BOG CEOs of banks brainstorm over 100 basis points hike in policy rate. And I think starting with NDC doubling down on pledge to quickly end double track, I think it's good that the Honorable Minister of Education is taking another look at the double track system, because sometimes there's a tendency to just rubbish the policies of previous administrations without checking whether the alternative is actually better, whether ending the double track system is better. Because we are already in the free education system. If there wasn't free SHS, then the government could decide whichever policy they want to adopt. But they have come to meet the free SHS policy. And until the free SHS policy is probably changed or done away with, if it is double track, that will help to manage the numbers. Then they have to stick to the double track. And I'm glad that they have doubled down. And another story is TUT vows to resist ECG privatization, which we're just discussing. I think the TUT has done a wonderful job of breaking down what they believe are the problems at ECG. And I think we should take a closer look at that. And Baumia decries security, intimidation, harassment. And that's also a very interesting story, because you can realize that no matter the regime in power, we do have excesses when it comes to the use of the security agencies to harass. I cannot say here whether what is happening now is harassment or intimidation. But one thing I can say is that a lot of the time, whether it's NPP or NDC, if it is NPP's time and they are asking, why are you doing this? The response is, but they also did this, without looking at the rights of the individual in question. I can understand why maybe they wanted to arrest the Honorable Reverend Minister at his house, because arresting an MP is not easy. You cannot serve them with a court document to arrest them. If I forgot the exact words, if they're on their way to Parliament or coming home, it's a very tricky situation. But I also heard that he had been...
I mean, if they are in the course of performing any parliamentary duty.
Exactly.
Whether heading to that place or in Parliament or all that.
Yes. So
there are certain dynamics.
Probably they felt that he being at home was the right time to arrest him. And I heard some quotations of the Public Order Act that a warrant wasn't needed, because if a police above the rank of constable sees somebody committing a crime, they can arrest them. But the thing is, what crime was he committing sitting at his house? So it's a very delicate balance there. We have to allow the security services to do their job. But at the same time, if there is a way that their job can be done without all the sensationalism, we should look at it. And we also have, if you go to the second page, we have IGP leads delegation to evaluate Bawku security situation. Right. That security situation, we do need a long-term solution to this issue. I suppose that part of Ghana has had its problems. It's had its. I stay there for a while. I suppose maybe with the exception of some pockets which have peace, the rest have had all kinds of situations that I think the state should look at getting a long-term solution to it. And then we have Cocoa Board urges public to disregard any announcement on cocoa producer price. And then we also have BOG injects $264 million into forex market to stabilize city. You know, when I see these headlines, it makes me laugh. It makes me laugh. As much as I did economics in secondary school, I'm not an economist, so I cannot criticize their policies. But for how long are these policies going to work? We've had similar policies for decades, and our currency just keeps on dropping. The dollar just keeps on going up. We are held to the mercy of the world economic system, and we need to put our foot down. And as I said before, look to our founder, Nkrumah, and his advice, and then implement what he advised. And I'm sure that we will make headway. And then we also
on that point, before the others come in, you know, capital flight. We're always, and you know that our currency, because we don't do certain things, our currency is always vacillating, fluctuating, flip-flopping. It's always at the mercy of, maybe now worse than we've seen ever in the Fourth Republic. But the point to be made that because we are also importing so much that we don't produce, we are at the mercy of, because if you don't produce a thing, and the person is telling you, I have produced it, I've added value to it, and I'm selling it at this, what can you do? You have to buy it. I was looking at something recently. You see dental floss.
Yes.
Because we import toothpicks. Don't forget. We still do import toothpicks.
We do, yes.
And I have some dental floss, and I was just wondering, do we produce some in Ghana? How many companies are producing something as basic as dental floss?
Or much.
Right. Because a lot of what I see is imported. So if you're importing all of these things, there's no way you will not have some of these problems. So like you're saying, the central bank can pump in whatever. There are certain peak seasons within every year. Your currency will definitely suffer. And every year we get to that point.
Exactly. And we also have to adopt our own form of protectionism. Because if the Chinese state is subsidizing its industries and we produce our dental floss, that means the imported dental floss may be cheaper than what we produce. So we also have to look at the Trump model. I mean, as much as it's hurting us, we also have to put tariffs on other states. But of course, our hands are tied. We get loans and grants from all these countries, and we think they are doing us a favor. We think they love us so much. But, well, I mean, we can all see that it's to keep our hands tied. So we need to do something about.
And you can't run away from the other bit, right? But let me bring in Professor Isaac Boedi. He's Dean of Accounting and Finance at the University of Professional Studies. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning, bro.
It's good to have you.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
You also can't run away from the bit about some private entities coming from abroad. And you see, we allow them to work and they repatriate practically all the revenue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That thing is hurting us because if they are able to keep some, then you cut down on importation. And it must be a holistic approach. But if you do only one, it will not work. But Prof, I don't know what your thoughts are on this matter before we get into the other stories there.
Good morning again. Good morning to my good friends and your viewers as well. We've been saying all this, that Ghana, we are blessed as a country. But God has been so good, giving us everything that we need. Our country is not poor. There's just management of our resources that is a problem. Because as a country, yes, you cannot run away from other engagement with other countries. Obviously, you bring some product into your country, but find out the ones that you can get here and the ones that you need to bring essential commodity that you cannot. The toothpick we talked about. Can't we do these things here? All the raw resources that we have, it's a matter of harnessing those resources. Add value to those ones.
Comparative advantage.
We have oil, we have gold, we have
lithium,
everything we have.
Is it the resource curse? But you know, I mean, if you study the literature, there is a trend. The countries with the most resources.
Nigeria is a typical example.
Yeah.
Congo.
Yeah, DRC.
DRC can be the bread basket, food basket.
And we hear Congo can even feed us with power throughout Africa.
In Ghana, we could supply, if the African continental free trade area and things worked, we could supply we could power the whole of Africa with the systems we have, though we are not using it well, which is why we are where we are. So
I don't know the solution to our problem. Honestly, if you ask me, we have the technical, the brains, even the ones we have talked about are the ones we have found. The ones hidden under the ground. We don't even know them.
But to know the solution, you must first know the problem. Do you know the problem?
I think the problems are well known, but the will to implement what you know has been so conspicuous.
So what do you think, Prof?
It's difficult to know our problems. But the issue is that if you don't know the problem, you can't solve. And that's what you said. Do we know the problem?
Yes, I think I have an idea what our foremost problem is in Africa. It's not leadership. It's not because look at the leaders we've had, NPP, NDC. Just assess them. You remember? I mean, the former president said we have the men. The former team, we have the men and all of that. Actually, they did. They did have the men and women on paper. Look at it. Some of them Ivy League trained, some of them from Oxbridge, Oxford and Cambridge. And I mean, these are people who have trained in entities, educational entities with high reputation. And they've traveled. They are well traveled. Yeah. Why are they not able to apply what they've seen there here? It's not about omunim. Even for those that we often tease are not well educated and they don't speak well, they have some foundation in the private sector and all of that. So why is it not working?
There was an article. There was an article in the Daily Graphic.
You don't have the solution.
There was an article in the Daily Graphic some years back, which was bitingly critical of the educated elite. That article, I agree, blamed all our problems on the educated elite. For instance, the Sushan boy, he or she has no access to state funds, let alone to steal. But all the acts of corruption are perpetrated by people.
You are going exactly where I was going. There is no thief bigger, better than the educated thief.
Yeah.
Because the common thief doesn't, but the one who is educated knows how to calculate. Knows how to. It reminds me of one of the short stories in Jeffrey Archer's, is it a twist in the tail or something of the sort, where there was this Nigerian minister who came. It was a story, but who came and he was acting down on corruption. Everyone was afraid. At the end, he himself went to a Swiss bank. He asked them, look, I want to know the names of all Nigerians who have, and by the way, I'm saying this is a story, who have accounts here. A lot of them Swiss banks. He did everything, even put a gun to someone's head. They did not give him the information. Then he said, good, now I know. And then he brought money to save that. The one who was our foremost problem, if you take away the educated elite, is greed. If we didn't have greedy leaders all the way from the days of independence, which is what Nkrumah was warning of, because if you look at it carefully, colonialism did a lot of damage to us. But since we took over, our leaders, I dare say, have done more damage to us. I'm not talking just Ghana. Have done more damage to us in where we are now, compared to even, because one of the foreigner, he doesn't care about you, but your own kith and kin and what we are doing. It is greed. That's why we are here.
But beyond the technical we have, beyond the technical we have, beyond the greediness, I mean, you said it right. The other issue that we have is also our culture. Look, let me give you a typical example. This Galamsey issue, you get an MP in an area or a DC in an area to say, I want to stand my authority on this. I will not allow anybody to do it. The next day, your father comes to you, tells you, please, this thing you are doing, the people in the area have come to me. They are telling me that I should come and tell you to stop. You say, Father, I will not do this. I won't stop. He comes the second time. The third time, he calls in the morning. Koju, Miwa, Mama Yase, so where's I do it? What happens to you?
If someone who is older makes a mistake, you are the younger one, pretend it is. We don't even have a culture of you can be here, someone can be there. But if you've made a mistake, you here, admit it. And that's why we are where we are. Our politicians, when they err, can't even come out and say, I said this.
It takes some inner strength to,
So he's right.
That's my problem. You stop.
To add to this greed issue, I think about 20 years ago, I read this book called The Mango and the Baobab, where there was this European, I've forgotten which country. He spent a long time in Ghana and Thailand and I think Malaysia. And I think he also knew about Singapore. And he was trying to figure out why all those countries started at the same time as Ghana, but they were ahead of Ghana. And he said in Ghana, the the ruling elite, the political elite, they are like the baobab tree. Wherever they go, they sap all the resources and they just enrich themselves.
And the baobab keeps getting bigger.
Bigger. But when you have Thailand, Singapore, they are like the mango tree. When they get into power, as much as they get enriched, the fruits affect everybody. It drops on everybody. So regarding this greed thing, there's a fundamental lack of empathy. We are unable to sympathize with our fellow man and get to know that he also goes through the same difficulties.
That's a leadership problem.
Yes, we need to really, look at that. And as he said, the culture also counts. If your father is going to tell you, oh, do this for him, but he should realize that by you cutting corners or doing this corruption or overlooking this, it has a ripple effect. There's somebody down the line that you do not know who may be in difficulty or who may even be pushed. The shoe shine boy may even be pushed to steal a loaf of bread just because you did somebody a favor somewhere high up. So we should know that every little decision we make as the educated elite, it trickles down to
and this issue of also worshipping filthy opulence.
Oh yeah, they'll have the front row seats, and I always feel bad saying it. Back in the day, Prof, you would see that if someone had money, you would want to find out how they made their money before they accord you any respect. Today, oh, he has money, let's worship him.
Exactly, yeah.
Front row seats in church.
It's true. It's true.
If you don't have, you say that.
How did he get the money? No one cares.
It's true. It's true. It's a good point. I remember my former hall teacher, Komotho, I think it was Professor Banon Yakubu. He spoke of when he bought his first car and he took it to his hometown, somewhere in the Upper West region. And before they welcomed him, they asked him, we want to know exactly how you got this car before we praise you. And it's tough. This is as far back as probably the late 90s that he told us this story. We the Komotho, we had an event and he told us. And it stuck with me till today. They wanted to know exactly how he made this money. But now, we don't ask questions. When you ask questions, people think it's envy. But at the same time, too, we shouldn't be throwing out unsubstantiated allegations out there.
Mr. Money, you were making a point.
Yeah, but just to reiterate the point that there's a need for us to question. Integrity, you can't put a price tag on integrity. You cannot, it's value integrity. So people of integrity, they're the people who should receive the highest accord in our society. Because all the fingers are not equal, and we don't have the same potentiality to make it big in life. But if you are regarded as a man or woman of integrity, society must accord you all the respect, and not necessarily judging you by your wealth, your palatial homes, cars, and all that. But this is the time for us to reset. Even though the word reset has some political connotations, this is the time to reset the whole society, ensure that we honor people who really deserve honor.
And Vitus sends in a message. He says, the educated elite think they are smarter than everyone.
Yeah.
And we have to assess ourselves, all of us.
Yeah.
Because if the educated and religious people, and how many Christians have we had? I am Christian, I am Catholic. How many have we had leading this country? If we are here, we must also accept some of the blame that we have failed on that level. And if we claim, oh, you have a PhD, you have a master's and all of that, and our country is still where it is, whether in academia, whether in politics, whether in media, wherever it is.
And Ben, I think we should also turn the guns on the media. Because by virtue of the role we play in society, holding people in the positions of power and authority to account, holding their lens to the fire of accountability. But this is what some of us fail to do. And our failure is so monumental because we allow ourselves to be compromised, depending on who is paying. So the time has come for us to be, to show that fidelity to the principles which underpin our professional journalism.
We'll get into the custodian shortly, but Prof, at the inception of the Fourth Republic, what he's saying about common people and all of that, there was hue and cry about the fact that, in formulating our constitution, which has stood the test of time, you had, apart from, I've forgotten his name, that justice, and a plethora of other legal brains and other prominent people who were there, you also had hairdressers, and the common people in there. I feel their presence there because we tend to think, people of a certain category, but all of that input has made our constitution, though it is not without issue, what it is today. But we lampooned it. Some people, hairdressers.
No one person is a repository of wisdom. And ideas can flow sometimes from sources you least expect. Sushan boy, market women. Look at how masterful our market women are in managing their businesses. Yeah. Some have paid, accounting background. Some have they've chartered as accountants and all that. But entrust them with vital responsibilities, they be found wanting. But the woman who has not been to class 1 will know how to manage her business to such an extent that business will grow, employ more people, and economy will boom.
I know some of these Makola women. Some of these Makola women. If you see where they live, and you disrespect them there, you'll be shocked.
But you've forgotten that if you go to some of the places in Accra, those houses are owned by those Makola women. Yeah. And we have our elites, dedicated ones, renting from them.
I'm talking airport hills and stuff.
Yeah. So sometimes, even when they are to read our budget, I always advise that the first place to go for a minister is to go to Makola women first. Have a workshop with these Makola women.
Dr. Forsen, they will teach you. Did you see that?
The time was short.
It was short.
2 days after the
optics. Made with optics.
Even for the week, they will teach you real economics.
Practical
on the ground.
Practical economics.
So we need to balance the act. Yes, it's good to pick a lot from the theory and all that. I'm not saying it's bad, it's good, but then have the practical one as well. And we don't need to neglect all these people.
The custodian newspaper.
Yes, the custodian newspaper. This headline story here: stop using security agents to harass opponents. And that's Baumia Minority Tell Mahama, their petition speaker. It's a worrying situation. Do we conclude that it's a systemic oppression or the law enforcement doing their job? This comes out as a result of the aeroplane, the aircraft issue, the cocaine that was were picked up from the warehouse, and all the way we've been told that the minority. Is it the majority, the mighty
minority?
Issued a press conference, and we heard that some marksmen gone into his house to pick him up. So many issues have come up. In fact, who is to be blamed? Is it the police? Is it the opposition? Or is it the government? This whole thing.
So maybe we can broaden the police into the security apparatus of the state.
Of the state, as part of those ones. But it's the difficult situation. And, there are results when we do this. One, democracy is at risk when we do this. Rule of law at risk. Again, investors' confidence. When we see these airlines, it's a worrying situation. And I don't know when we can do this. If you look at Kenya model, Kenya, for example, they enforced or they supported the police, and they were able to reduce this harassment to about 40%. People are picked the rally grounds, selective people are persecuted based on comments that the person makes. And we have police sometimes going to houses of the opposition. Has it happened before? Is it the first time? That's why I asked the question, which we cannot get an answer. Is it a systematic thing, or just that police people are doing their normal jobs? Which, for me, we should find a solution to this. I'm not saying that it has never happened before. Rally grounds will pick people, demonstrations will pick people after demonstration, we pick them. And we don't need to use, democracy bliss when the state security or agents are used as a weapon to oppress the opposition. And you know that we dropped in our rankings, I think 2024 or so, about three points or so because of this. We should not be seeing these headlines that security agents harassing the opponent. Investors are watching. And for me, that's where I am looking at the numbers. If we do this, some that want to travel beyond your borders, then you realize the importance of coming to the online to check what is happening in your country. And that's what all the world people are doing. So we need to look at this. Now they have petition back then. And the other case that happened, the first one, they petitioned the international community. I don't know.
Diplomatic, call in Ghana.
Yeah. So when domestically you are not getting results, where do you go? You go outside. Is that the solution? They have petitioned Babin. If they don't succeed, where will they go next? International community. And what is the image? So I think we should do things right. If the minister makes a mistake, it's not above the law. Let's find a nice way and invite him. And in that case, was he invited? That's another question. And then he failed to attend. Or it just...
the claim was that he had been invited. He said he had not been invited. There were rebuttals and all of that.
Now, the issue is that where is the common enemy? Is it the NDC? Or is it MPP? Where are the goods, the assets, the cocaine? Where?
let me,
the guy we can't find. What are we doing?
Let me situate the conversation further and just draw up a list. Aaron Latif Idrisu, how many years ago? His case is still in court. Assaulted by the police. Butt of a gun on his head, cracking his skull. Right? Fracturing his skull. You have a man who many years back was on demonstration with Gabi Otridako and co. You remember the one whose eye was impacted under the NDC before 2016. You have Gabi Otridako himself who was slapped at a point. You have Sam George, Ayawaso West Wogo, also a member of parliament, assaulted. Democracy Hub. Thrown in. I had to go and visit some of them in police custody. What basically have they done? People who hadn't even been active in what they were picked up. Someone who wasn't even there was picked up.
Someone who had gone to see a patient.
Law students, you remember the water cannon incident and all of that. Francis Xavier Sosu picked up. Church. Chachuchikata. You see, I'm taking from different eras and what we have seen. So it's an issue. Due process must be followed, and every individual's rights must be upheld to the highest level. You may say that, President primus inter pares, but the law still applies. But with every right comes responsibility.
The two should go in tandem.
So I wholly agree. No one should be persecuted. Maybe prosecuted if the person has done something wrong. But persecution goes beyond prosecution. Right? So everybody must be fair. But I also ask, that question you were raising, the how of doing it is important, but you don't have privilege that extends beyond everyone else's. Your rights end where someone else's begins. So at this point, the cocaine, where is it? Like you were asking, right? I believe also that if the invitation purportedly was thrown and he says no invitation actually came, let's assume no invitation was there. We've got to this point in the country. What is Reverend Intim Fojo waiting for? Simple question. I mean, let's unravel this matter.
They give a tip for authority to act upon. This is what Anyagba is saying, that they gave a tip of what in
his first presser.
Yeah,
it was sort of alleging.
Yeah.
The second time we heard, it was more like, this is it. Yeah. This came into the country. It was emphatic.
Yeah.
You see, that's why I feel it becomes problematic. Because if I say that, oh, Prof, Sebi, you're a thief.
Yeah.
You would take me on, wouldn't you? In fact, if I came here and said that, oh, you're for pa, oh, Prof is a... Next thing I know, you'll probably be suing me and the entire entity for propagating. And I would have to prove in court whether I've not, defamed you and all of that. You do get it. The dynamics are. I don't know whether we appreciate where we are.
Anytime we play the ball to the side of the politicians, this is the result we get. I ask a simple question. Let's take NDC MPP out of this equation. And we are talking about fake currencies, unaccounted dollars, gold linked to illegal mining. These are three.
Some which the claims are that they are fake, but where are the real ones?
Good. So, when we have this story, they have a nice pattern that they follow. We have a spectacular seizures of the items. We give fleeting headlines. No accountability. We go to sleep. We'll talk and talk and talk and talk. Another issue will come. We'll talk and talk. For me, I wrote an article that there should be a public audit on all the seized assets over the years. I listed all the cases over the year, the MVP, MJ Benjamin, all those. Go back and track where the assets.
I was making similar comments recently that, and sometimes they'll show we've burnt all of. Is that all of it?
Where? Yeah.
I'm just saying, is that all of it? Sometimes we've got to destroy. Is that the
what we do that we don't help the system? Okay, someone claims that I have an intelligence, I have an idea, this thing probably had happened. Then we have the NDC coming up, the government, say, oh no, it wasn't true. The aircraft came, the pilot was sleeping. He wanted to find a place and rest. Was the GA. So many issues have come up. Take those issues out. Let's go into the substance. Where are those assets that were seized? Where?
But you're not talking you're talking of the effect, not the airplane, because I think you are confusing two.
Oh no, it led into. Wasn't that
not related.
The 350
not
million
related at all
is different from the airplane.
Airplane.
The airplanes, what the Ghana Airport Company Limited is saying, NACOC, National Security, they actually checked those flights. And there was nothing in there. So I think you are fusing the 350 million.
Let's come back again. Are we talking about the rate, Superman rate? No, it's gone. We're still talking about it.
Okay.
Now we are moving to the aircraft. What the aircraft, the airline came to do in Ghana, we don't know. But then, do we allow the institution to comment? The government has a right to comment, for me. But I've never heard anything from Ghana. Or have they from the Ghana Supervision?
Yeah, they've come out.
They've come out. We've heard from the Ghana Airport Company Limited. I think there's something, I don't know whether this,
it was late.
The GCAA.
Yeah,
but I think I've seen something. I may not have read it. I think I may have seen something. And I think this is where also, the other day I was saying that...
But when they were late to issue the statement, I think time is of essence anyway.
They shouldn't, they should be, when it happens like this, I'm sure that an institution of with such resources, PRO and all those things, you should let us know before we allow the government probably will be the last resort to come and talk about this. Yeah.
But I think it also points to what more can be done in ensuring transparency in some of these matters so that it doesn't come to, because like I keep mentioning, and it's because I spoke to him here, the NACOC Deputy Director, Alex Chumberima, who is a lawyer himself. When he came here, he showed me a video dated the 16th of March. Okay. Ntim Fojo had his presser, I think, on the 1st of April. some people have also raised questions about, okay, between when it landed on the 12th and the 16th when this video was taken, what happened in between? You get it? Was the search conducted when it came? What happened in between?
Legitimate.
Until which is legitimate. Until maybe this video was taken. So I think we need to crack the whip. We need to seek answers, but we also must stop doing politics. Everything, which sometimes I sense. Because if you are not careful, I keep saying, the boy who cried wolf, crying wolf every day as a joke. But the day something really happened and he was crying wolf, no one listened to him because they knew him to be here.
Who we talking? It's a national disease.
It's true.
Refracting every issue
it's true.
partisan lenses.
It's true. It's true because even the Takrade, when I heard the MP for, I think Secondly, Honorable Blade Namike, saying someone had accused him of having something to do with it. And it's true, we shouldn't politicize because it could be that, he has. It could be that they could even be non-political actors. But we're always quick to tag any high-level crime with this party or that party. And then we have the real culprits laughing all the way to the bank.
Which also reminds me of, I think there was another allegation as well that of the $350 million bust, I think in Tim Fojo, right? He said that $150 million of it belonged to an NDC parliamentary candidate.
That's the one.
Something else I feel, I mean, if you know that for a fact, tell the nation so that we can know this person and deal with the person.
And then
if you don't, then you've made such an allegation. And if it were me,
he's going to court. He's going to court you.
Thankfully, no names were. But you get how serious these can be. You can't make claims and it's.
And said for us, it's like he had never cited any pain, let alone to.
We'll become lawyers.
Anyway, is there any other story? We have just about 1 minute. You can do that, and then I'll wrap with mine.
Reality has exposed NDC on the economy. I'm sure Gideon working on the issue about the COVID when NDC used that MPP claimed that economic issues, they had some external shock. And now a minister has also confirmed from the NDC that,
but did anyone say there were no external shocks?
Well, I mean, that's what
it was the extent that everybody spoke about. Because the whole world experienced the external shocks. But the question was, to what extent? Right here in Africa, you have other West African countries, Côte d'Ivoire, go to Côte d'Ivoire, go to Togo. So it wasn't about, there were no external shocks. It was about to what extent
but I think
external shocks impacted.
The admission is important. If you admit, so that we don't add the extent to which.
But Prof, where I disagree with you is, it's not. It has always been admitted. No one said that there was never any external shock. I don't recall hearing anybody. Do you recall? I feel money. Anyone in government now saying that, there were no external shocks.
No.
There was no effect.
I think the issue was the manacled explanation.
When they were talking about Ukraine, Russia, then people were laughing at those things. Now, I have a lot that I can give you later, but that's fine. So that's what Gideon tells us.
Even if it rained in Ghana.
As soon as the scenario, we don't live on our line. Things globally will affect us. And for me, if we had admitted that earlier on, that would have been fine. But now, CDM calls for unified response to 10% tariffs. And you know what? This Uganda also, they've reacted, another country. And they have also scrapped the importation of U.S. products. For me, it's a weakening. Totally. Yeah, I mean, it's a weakening bargaining power. I mean, they decided to slash you on 10%. You decide, okay, let me not take off. I won't take anything from U.S. again. You bring your product. You destroy your economy.
Right.
You have other goods coming in. So they are calling that there should be a response. And that is the first thing they have to do when you see tariffs like this. You go and negotiate. Because the standard or what they use to measure and to come out with 10%, for me, we don't have a trade deficit. We have recorded trade surpluses over there. So why would you slash 10%? So go and negotiate.
Let me quickly take this message. Godwin says, Ben, the era where public officials were asked by family members about their source of wealth was an era where accountability in governments was held high. This was the era of PNDC and NDC under Jerry, but I think also before. You ask them in which era that was. You can only change the mindset of people when a when with a political system that has what it takes to hold the leaders of the country to account. And I think the polarization is also so much that if for certain people, even this government, because they have an affinity for the party in power, if something wrong is done, they will actually say, listen, there's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
And same for the other side, because of where their political affiliations lie. And that is a big problem.
That's where, and here's where media should come in. Because theoretically we learn that objectivity is the purest gem of this profession of journalism. But how objective are the media systems in this country? This is a question. We have some media outlets which are MPP without any shred of shame.
Right.
Others are NDC without any iota of apology. So we leave media consumers confused. So this is a time for us to get our act right as media practitioners. Always ensure that we are on the side of rectitude, on the side of accountability, on the side of objectivity.
Right.
So that what our people consume will help them to make the right choices at the right time.
I'll just give you the headlines from the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Circular Economy Project gets boost. SMEs allocated $4.35 million for sustainable plastic waste management. Government explores cheaper power option for Bawku. That's according to the sector minister, Amakufibua. No more NHIS statutory payment delays, Deputy Finance Minister. RegSec pulls down illegal structures at Weja, Dansum and Ramsar sites. And I hear there's something going on in Kumasi, the Ashanti region as well, on the back of that fire.
Yeah.
Gold Coast Refinery offers government 15% carried interest. And there's enforced textile tax stamp registration laws. That's the ICU, the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union. That's their appeal. Well, that's how we cap off the news review this morning. Those who joined the conversation, Kwame Nkrumah Bosio, General Secretary of the CPP, former President of the Ghana Journalists Association, Afeil Moni, and we also had Professor Isaac Bwedi, who is Dean of Finance and Accounting at the University of Professional Studies, Accra. All of them joined the conversation. Stick and stay. We have more action coming your way in a bit.
This is our big story segment on the AM show. Welcome. Now we're going to discuss what's happening in Bawku. We know that the Inspector General of Police, Christian Teteyono, is set to visit Bawku today, and that's following the violent clashes resulting in the death of a police officer. And we'll bring you details, but let's engage our guest. The security analyst, Dr. Victor Doke, is online with us. Doc, thank you so much for joining the conversation. Now, over the past 6 months, Bawku has experienced a significant resurgence in violence, and now we are seeing the death of a police officer. And this isn't something that is only happening now. What do you think is the reason why we keep coming back here, beyond the surface level ethnic conflicts and chieftaincy narratives? What exactly is the reason why we keep coming back here every time?
Good morning to you and your cherished viewers. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me, though?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right, thank you. So the reason we keep having a recurrence of armed confrontations in Bawku is for so many reasons. Number one, aside what you said, yes, the chieftaincy and then the ethnic aspects to it. Now, the dynamics of the conflict has changed, which some of us are avoiding to talk about, which is what happened at Naroligo on 13th to 15th or so, 2023, with the, escapement of the rival chief. This has significantly added to the approximate factors of the conflict. Now, the reasons why we are seeing cacophonous shootings or experiencing them, and then these sort of violence, are because some things trigger the atmosphere. It triggers the two actors to clash, or it triggers for one actor to feel they are not what? Their needs are not addressed, their wants are not addressed. So then they have to what? Express their frustrations. And expressing frustrations will lead to aggressions. Now, with regards to the situation itself, which is very sensitive and volatile, any situation, any disagreement, or any kind of event orchestrated by a third party who should be neutral or who should stand in between and sort of like mediate for the two sides will be what? Misinterpreted. And in this case, what we experienced was on the part of the security forces that took an action contrary to what the traditional overlord had already given directives to not to happen, and then it happened. Now, in most cases, you would tend to know or see that the security forces there would like to take certain actions. For example, organizing cleanups between the two actors to what? Promote coexistence, harmony, and whatnot. Those they term as what? Peace-building activities. But when you're talking about peace-building activities, the security forces are not necessarily to be the first actors who would lead these peace-building activities, because then the main aspect or the main objective of the security forces is to ensure there is peace, the security, protect lives and property, and then enforce the curfews that are in there. Now, peace-building activities are left to main stakeholders such as state institutions mandated to involve or resolve conflict, the National Peace Council, the civil society organizations, and whatnot. Now, when you have the security forces leading this kind of event, it brings to question whether the people will trust you or not. And especially when they respect their overlord, and then you in their jurisdiction don't tend to respect their overlord, it brings a problem. And you cannot build peace or resolve or address a conflict such as this. People have taken entrenched positions, the conflict has prolonged, and then you want to be seen to be supporting or giving one side favoritism over the other. You're definitely going to have these kind of actions. There are a lot of other factors that, result in the clashes.
Right.
Misunderstandings with regards to either festival celebrations, misunderstandings on even the use of the market, as we saw.
Yeah.
Just 24 hours ago.
Right. And since the return of the rival chief, at least 26 fatalities have been recorded. But we've also seen that the president took a trip up there. And it doesn't appear the efforts or our approach, the state approach, is actually yielding any result. And you said that in terms of peace-building activities, it doesn't fall to the security forces first. So is it a failure on our approach to actually curb this? Or are we just do we not understand the full situation, and so our approach doesn't match, the action?
Right. I think with the situation, the stakeholders understand what it is now. They understand the litigation aspect that has happened. They understand the traditional requirements that is involved in settling a dispute. It is only a matter of the two sides agreeing specifically to what kind of traditional practice they want to perform to, declare the conflict over. With regards to approaches, one approach that the state uses is to enforce curfews, renew and enforce the curfews. And then the military personnel or the security personnel will then have to go in there and enforce the curfews. One challenge has been the sustained engagements. So after we enforce the curfews, what do we do? Which institution leads mediations? Which institution leads and engages with the two sides? We have established a grassroots stakeholders such as the Bawku Ethnic Peace Committee. They are not resourced, capacity is not built, but we expect this grassroots committee, which consists of every representation of the ethnic groups in Bawku, to meet and then address and iron out minor issues, such as how they will celebrate festivals and whatnot, which is not happening. The state agency, the National Peace Council, which we all know under-resourced, cannot undertake risk assessments, cannot implement early warning systems in the area. And how do we expect that we'll be able to address the conflict? Now, it is only one aspect to enforce curfews, which stops the clashes. But even in this case, can we even say we have 100% success on enforcing curfews? You cannot, because you would definitely have to hear shooting somewhere else. You definitely have to hear clashes somewhere else. We've brought in the eminent chief, the Asantehene, to lead. That is a very good sign because of his experience elsewhere in the Dagbon Kingdom. The other members who are going to assist the eminent king come up with a comprehensive and efficient roadmap. Who are they? Do they have the requisite knowledge about ethnic conflicts, chieftaincy conflicts? Do we have every stakeholder that is supposed to be there to aid in coming out with a roadmap there?
Right.
Those are the questions we need to ask. So as for the approaches, we tend to be comfortable with the curfew imposition because it's a direct prevention measure addressing the imminent, immediate aspect of what? The clashes. But beyond that, you need to continue engaging the two sides. So most of the times, when we enforce the curfews and then we relax, then you hear clashes again.
Right.
You enforce the curfews. So this is why we have had this prolonged conflict and it doesn't seem to have any antidote to it.
And Doc,
we need to work effectively, come up with a roadmap, and every stakeholder would implement his side of the roadmap, and then we can have some finality.
All right. Ben will come to you in a bit, but I just want to talk about the perception of security forces up there, because the killing of a police officer marks an escalation, I think, because you started by saying that the dynamics of the conflict has changed. What does this say about how the people themselves perceive security officials in that area?
Now, the main idea to have security forces is for you to trust them with regards to ensuring that the other faction would not cross over and come and attack or single you out, and then when you're going about your business, they attack you. That is what they have as a perception, to protect life and property, to ensure there's law and order. However, if you have the security forces engaging in what I earlier on said, events or activities in the name of what? Peace building or ensuring coexistence, and then they ignore the norms and traditions of the land and go against the directives that any king or chief in a jurisdiction has given, then you are sure to have this kind of incidents. The people in the area will not trust you, the security personnel, for you to have your own way of doing things. And that is what happened. It's simple as that. There needs to be trust. Trust enhances cooperation and collaboration. Trust enhances that the people would give you information. But if this trust is broken, then you are sure the people will rise up.
Over to you, Ben.
This is what we are saying.
You made a point that I wanted to draw you back on. You suggested that sometimes we impose curfews, then we go to bed, and then the simmering fire sparks into a blaze one more time. But you also, if you want to consider the economic activities in the area, the general life of community members, you can't have a perpetual curfew. In fact, the Constitution also has certain instances where these must be effected with the Interior Ministry, the President, and the decision to be made. So what exactly did you mean by that statement?
Right. So I don't mean to impose a perpetual curfew, to use your words. You can have it, of course. That is a near impossible situation unless there's really a dire consequence that calls for it. There's so much humanitarian crisis at stake that you need to, impose a perpetual curfew on that. Now, with regards to what we have now, it's only one step, but does not address the core issue, not to even talk about the root cause, which is chieftaincy. Let's not forget, the root cause per litigation and historical antecedents, from my personal opinion, has been sorted, because the courts have settled it. Now, the issue now is for one faction to come to the table and say, well, we can't go back to litigation. With regards to our needs, our wants, our interests, this is what we want now. Can it be done? If no, what other options can we see to satisfy us? Now that aside, you have the two sides taking entrenched positions. The chieftaincy is a no-go area. Whoever you ask will tell you plainly. If you ask the Kusas, they'll tell you it's non-negotiable. And when you go to ask the Mampusis, they'll tell you what is outstanding is a chieftaincy. We need to look at that clearly. And this is not hearsay. This is according to research that I conducted. And they will tell you plain that this is their needs and interest. So then if one side cannot have the chieftaincy, what can we do about it? How do we make them understand, per the laws, per the traditions and customs, per what has gone on in history that we know on litigation, what is the way forward? That is the issue at stake now. And then we look at how we can handle 13 February, the incident of a rival chief. Once you don't tackle this, the people in the area are sure that their needs are not met, and they would always engage. You need to resolve all these things. So on the back of that, that is why in every traditional area, they have norms, and the king says, do not engage with the other actors unless we settle our disputes. So if any stakeholder goes in there and does not understand the historical antecedents of any particular conflict, they tend to make mistakes, and the results into this.
So very, very briefly, in just about a minute, what's the way forward? You made mention of the fact that an attack on the police means there's serious mistrust in that part of the country. You see how the market situation, what it has created, the attack on a member of parliament's residence and all of that. All of these paint quite a picture, don't they? For you, just briefly, what will be the way forward?
One, I think we need to give our security personnel the training with regards to the capacity building they need to understand that going into a conflict situation such as this, you need to stick strictly to your mandate. You stay away from chieftaincy issues or events such as these that would cause the people to go on a rampage or retaliate, and avoid these kind of situations as much as possible. Where you are needed, you be called in. The roadmap that has to be brought up, has to be fast-tracked, and we look at all those who are, constitute the committee. We talk about experts, analysts, CSOs, think tanks, in chieftaincy issues, conflict resolution. And one other important thing, now, how about we give these security personnel some psychosocial support with regards to their mental health? Because most of the times, we know how going on peacekeeping missions such as this entails. You are out of the main world, if I should put it that way. They need some kind of support to build their mental fortitude to address issues efficiently. And I would advise that, once again, they should just stay out of chieftaincy issues or activities or events that would be misinterpreted.
Doc, we're immensely grateful for your time with us this morning. Security
Thank
analyst
you very much.
Dr. Victor Doki joining us there, sweetie.
Yes, so now let's go to the Upper East region because our correspondent Albert Sore is standing by to bring us details. Albert, we understand that this started from the markets where one faction, the women from one faction were just, plying their trade. The other said they should leave, which resulted in the clashes and the burning of a police officer's home and all that. Tell us exactly what happened, and then we take it on from there. And Albert, if you can hear me, please unmute and let's get talking.
Right. So from the stories we've gathered from the area, because of the existing conflict, the factions have markets that they individually do their trade in. There used to be a common central market where they all always, came together to trade until the resurgence of the conflict. So they all decided to each have their own markets in their own territories. But what we are learning is that one of the factions, women from one of the factions started going to the market where their rival faction trade. So that market belongs to the other faction. Now, over the last 1 week or so, this has been brewing. And so let me just put it this way. Yesterday, the Upper East Regional Minister spoke to us, and he actually indicated the faction. So to make it easy, let me just go through what he said. So what he said was that the Kusasis have a market close to where they live, and some of the women from the Mamprusi side started coming there to trade. Something that some of the women from the Kusasi side didn't really have a problem with, but the Kusasi youth thought that that shouldn't be the case, because if you have your market and we also have our market, then it didn't, make sense for us to trade together, looking at the existing situation. And so over the last 2 days, they started driving the women who had been coming to the market away. Now, what is happening also is that they accuse the police of escorting these women into their market to trade. And so 2 days ago, they were trying to drive the women away. And from what the police are telling us, sometimes they sort of beat up the women, and the police couldn't stand by and watch them do that. So even though the youth accused the police of escorting the women into the market to trade, the police are telling a different story, that they were only trying to prevent them from attacking the women and not necessarily to protect the women into the market to do their trade. And so this is how the scuffle came about. The police tell us that in the course of all of this, some of the irate youth fired at them. This is an allegation that the youth are also denying, because they say they were not armed. And so it was the police who rather fired at them and killed one of their people, who is a leader of the youth from the Kusasi side. Now, in retaliation, the youth went on a sort of rampage, and they attacked the private residence of the divisional police commander, and they burnt it down. They also attacked some private residences that had been given to some police officers to live in, which they refer to as a barracks, and they burnt some of the rooms in those houses as well. Over the last 24 hours, we've heard reports about an attack on the police station in Pusiga, which is a neighboring district. They've also attacked a few police checkpoints, destroyed the barricades, and burnt down those small cubicles where the police often sit at the checkpoints. Some of them were actually burnt down.
Albert, we understand the IGP is set to come up there, pay a visit, and see how he can restore calmness. Do we have any updates on that?
Yes, so I'm currently at the location where we are told he has arrived. It is a hotel place. So we haven't seen him yet, but I've been told that he's currently here, and very soon he will be making the trip to Bawku. We don't know whether Bawku is the only place he'll be going or whether he'll pay courtesy calls on some other people. But we are just waiting for the opportunity to join him on the trip and to report on it.
Albert, I'm just curious, the people in these communities, how do they feel today on the back of, I'm sure over time, with the constant talk about Bawku, and whenever Bawku comes up, there's something, violent in the picture and all of that. How do they feel when they speak to you? What do they communicate to you?
So yesterday, with everything that had happened, the police hierarchy and the Regional Security Council was meeting with the various factions to try and calm down nerves. But that didn't seem to yield much result, because the youth actually continued to threaten and to go on rampages. They attempted to attack the home of the MP for Bawku Central, Mahama Ayariga. They also even attacked a home we are told belongs to the Member of Parliament for Pusiga Haji Aladi Ayamba. That house is located in Bawku, but from what we learn, it's been given to some police officers to live in, and they also attacked that house as well. So in the last 24 hours or so, the youth have been very angry, particularly because of the fact that their leader was the one who was killed in this incident. This morning, we are yet to arrive in Bawku and to know what the situation is. But the sense I'm getting is that they have been calmed down. The traditional authority is waiting for the IGP's visit. And so we believe that they've been calmed down, in anticipation of the visit, and also for them to get the opportunity to express whatever grievances they have.
Well, Albert, thank you for engaging us on these subjects. Let's also bring in other guests, David Adolba. He's spokesperson for the Bawku Naba. He joins the conversation. David, good morning. It appears we may have lost David in there. We'll try to get him back. We also have joining the conversation Issa Moro. He is a Mamprusi opinion leader. Always when we engage on these matters, we want to hear from both sides. Of course, seasoned with a lot of, temperate language, right? Mr. Moro, a very good morning to you, sir. Do we have Issa Moro with us? Please unmute for me, Mr. Moro.
Good morning to you and then your cherished listeners.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for having us on the show.
Thank you for joining the conversation. Yes. I would want to say, as we start the conversation, I wish I had Mr. Adolba to join the conversation as well, to say to both of you that let's take off our Mamprusi lens and Kusasi lens. Just let's face the issue. What is happening currently? What is the picture from where you sit about what triggered this latest reaction?
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity once again. I believe strongly that the reason why we don't have a very good resolution of the problem in Bawku is because usually most of the issues are misrepresented. And when they are misrepresented, stakeholders don't get the opportunity to understand what exactly the issues are. Now, what we are currently witnessing is a situation that has developed for a very long time. It is not just only yesterday. And the first point I would like to make clear is that it is not the entirety of Bawku youth who are engaging the police in these acts of violence. I think it is the Kusasi youth, and they have come out to own up that they are those who are having these issues with the police. So it is important that in our reportage, we make it clear that it is the Kusasi youth who have these issues with the police rather than saying it is Bawku youth. Now, secondly, if you would notice, it now appears as if people commit crime and then find a way to rationalize the crime. And this is
just a quick point. I'm sorry I have to do this. Did you just say that it is the Kusasi youth who have a problem with the police, not the Bawku youth? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Why do you have to delineate it as a Kusasi issue?
No, what I mean is the Kusasis themselves have come up to own up that they are those who have these issues with the police, and they are those who are engaging the police in this issue. But unfortunately, they are dragging the names of the Mamprosis into this issue. That is why we just want to bring clarity. But for the facts, it is the Kusasis who have these issues with the police. And then maybe when you get Adoliba, he might be able to clarify that for you.
Okay, so you're speaking of the present situation, because in the past, I've heard of instances where others too, from the other side, have also had issues with the police. That's what I just wanted to clarify. Please go ahead.
No, in this current issue, clearly it is the Kusasis.
No, I'm glad you're situating it in the current issue, so I understand.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Now, the issue is that over the years, people commit crime and then they find a way to rationalize the crime. Let me give you an example. About 2 weeks ago, a soldier was murdered. And then the excuse we got was that he did not wear his uniform. That was the rationalization that was given. A military officer, warrant officer. And they rationalized it by saying that he did not wear his uniform. And then people bought into that idea, meaning that if it is a civilian who is killed, it is okay. Now, in this context, people have vandalized police properties. And then the rationalizations are that it is because the police are escorting other people to the markets of the Kusasis. And everybody is seeing nothing wrong with that. In the first place, the misconception that the police were escorting the Mamprosis to the Kusasi market is untrue. What the police were doing was that they were trying to clear the road, which is the Bolga-Bawku main road. That is where most of these crimes are perpetrated. It was not inside the market. It was not. And then what happened was that usually we had one market in Bawku. The market was established since the 1850s and it has flourished. But unfortunately, after the conflict, the Kusasis felt that they had to open a separate market, which we did not have a problem initially. But what happened later was that they decided to block people from accessing the main central market. And this Adoliba can confirm, he would deny it. People coming from Burkina Faso, people coming from Togo, they block all of them from accessing the main Bawku central market.
All right, hold for me. You've made certain allegations. Let me bring in David Adolba. He's spokesperson for the Bawku Naba. What is your end of the story? And your counterpart, Mr. Moro, says you can corroborate some of these things. Are they things that you are aware of? Hello, Mr. Adolba.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear. Did you get my question?
No, I didn't.
Have you followed so far and heard what your counterpart, Mr. Moro, has been saying?
Yes, I heard.
Good. So I'm saying that from where you stand or sit, what happened? What has been the cause of this latest spark in violence? And I also want to find out, he said certain things and said that even you are aware. Are you aware of those developments?
I don't know where he's getting that information and how he thinks I'm aware. I just want to state that in his statement, he mentioned about crime and rationalization of crime. For that one, the security has a duty to look for criminals and deal with them. And so when issues crop up, you don't find a way of also trying to paint the picture to make it look like somebody, a whole group or a whole tribe are criminals and acting in a certain direction that nobody is seeing. I will start by telling him that if he has information and he's in Bawku, he would have gotten to know that there was nothing like the police clearing any road. he is aware that it had nothing to do with police clearing any road. If he is refusing to say the truth, I will let him know. It was a market day, and the security decided to position themselves from the police station, which is the end to which the Mampushis cannot cross, to the new market, and now made the women, the Mampushi women, to have access into the market. So the youth came, and let me put it on point. It is the traditional council that came out with a statement asking Crisis not to trade with Mampushis until the Bawku matter is resolved and the needed traditional rituals are performed. If not, if we get ourselves engaged on certain activities, there's the possibility of more escalation.
But so let me just ask, was it accepted, this proposal, was it accepted?
It was accepted by all, and that is why the youth came to tell the police that they don't agree with their using force to let the Mampushi women come into the market. So in the process of arguing, one of the youth leaders came in to talk to the youth when the police opened fire. So nobody should sit and say that we are rationalizing what a crime or something. I am telling you that if the police had not killed Fusheni and injured others, the action that the youth took wouldn't have taken place, even though we equally condemn that action. But something led to what happened. In every action, there's a reaction. So if you want to throw overboard the action and want to use the reaction to mean that somebody is a criminal acting wrongly, I disagree.
Mr. Adoliba, so confirm this for me before we proceed. Itamoro said that this is not a Bawku youth problem, it's a Kusasi youth, and you've come out to actually taking responsibility for it. Is that correct?
That is correct. Great.
And the action that is resulting in this reaction, like you say, is that the Mampusi women, per that directive, which is accepted by both factions, are not supposed to be trading in the Kusasi market or with the Kusasis in the first place, correct?
Correct.
So when they decided to do that with the police escorts, whether or not the police was escorting them or not, can you actually say that the reaction that we got, burning or setting ablaze the home of a police officer and all that, does that amount, or is it equal to the action that's resulted in that reaction?
I don't get you.
I'm saying that you're saying that to every action there's an opposite and equal reaction, right? Exactly. And the action here is that the Mampusi are not supposed to be trading with the Kusasis, correct?
That is not the action. The action is that the police shot at the youth and killed one of the youth leaders.
But that's because that's because they violated that directive and went into the market, correct?
You see, you are
Mr. Adoliba, I want us to develop a plot, right? A sequence
but the tangent you are going, if you allow me to learn before you come up with your questions, I'll be able to put things.
Please go ahead. I'm listening to you.
Because one, I am telling you that this is the reason why the Kusasi youth approached the police to tell them that they are not allowed, the Mapuche women are not allowed to go into the market. And so the police shot at the Kusasi youth. And that is where
I'm trying to establish why the police shot at. That is why I'm saying let's develop a plot here, right? Okay. So you tell me, what do you think happened that resulted in the police shooting a civilian?
Yes, it was because the civilians or the youth met earlier with the police head to let them know that they are not acting alone. They are acting under instructions. And per the traditions of the area, if you are in conflict with somebody, there are procedures that you need to go traditionally to resolve the matter before you can integrate. The traditional council sent their elders last week to meet the divisional commander and the task force commander to let them know that We cannot integrate for now until the area is peaceful and the necessary traditional rituals are performed. So when the police decided 3 days after to position themselves and to allow the Mampushi women to come into the market, the youth came and told them they won't allow that because until the necessary processes are followed, we cannot integrate. That was where the argument came and the police shot and killed one person and injured others. But you and I should know that the police had that power to have arrested anybody and arrest the person before the court.
I have an interesting...
Wrong is wrong.
Right. Wrong is wrong. I have an interesting thought for you. Do you think the killing was justified?
Not at all.
Why do you think it wasn't justified?
It's not justified because the police or the security are in Bawku to protect life and property, not to destroy.
Looking at the situation at the market, should we maybe have, because, I mean, some would say, oh, but if the market is located here, we must still be allowed to trade because it's a major market. But others would also say that, but if at that major market, one of the opposing parties is not being allowed to come in, then maybe we should let the market be for now so that neither one feels at a disadvantage. What do you think?
Immoral message to you that there is a central market that was patronized by all. Anytime there was conflict, the Mampushes will go into the market, fire weapons, and the women will run away. Then they will lose their items and money. So we decided to open a separate market. So as we speak, there are two markets. The Mampushes are in the central market, which is big and beautiful. But to protect our women, we have also gone to open a satellite market somewhere. And to avoid getting a lot of confrontations, we decided that we are staying in that market. Now, if you hear the name of the market is that I hold my peace at my corner. So to avoid these kind of events, we have created our market. We don't know why they've decided that they must still patronize our market.
Right. So, Mr. Adoliba, hold for me at this point.
Might create more problems.
Right. Hold for me at this point. Isamoro, can you tell us exactly why the women from your side were trading in the Kusasi market? Is there a reason that they're violating that directive, which, according to Mr. Adoliba, you all agreed to and went ahead to trade in their market? What's necessitated that?
Please
not at all.
For us.
We are not bound by any. Not at all. We are not bound by any directive that Mr. Adoliba and co have given. That said,
no, not a directive from Mr. Adoliba. He says that it's the traditional council that gave that directive, which you both agreed to.
No, we did not agree to that. And I hold him to prove. He should prove where we agreed to that. But that said, let me make this point clear. No Mamprisi woman is going to that market to transact business. Not at all. That's why I'm saying that the issues have been misrepresented. And I would ask Adoliba to mention one Mamprisi woman who has gone to that market to transact business. It is false. Let me tell you what exactly happened, and that led to the confrontation. The attacks on women does not happen inside the market. No. These are women who live in the Bawku township, some of them moshis, some of them houses, who feel that they are not party to the conflict. So they decide to go to that market. Mapusi women then go. So when they go to the market, they are able to buy the goods because the Kusasi women in the markets, they need customers. They sell the goods to them. And when they now take the goods and they are leaving the market, the Kusasi youth catch them or they accost them right in front of the police station. They attack them. There's even a video evidence, and that case has been prosecuted in court, of the Kusasi youth caning these innocent women, two of them, and they were weeping. And all these things happened right in front of the police station. That is why the police felt that, look, these crimes cannot happen in front of a police station. The police didn't go to the market, mind you, and they were not escorting any Mampusi woman. No. They only felt that, look, in today's age, You don't have the right to hold arms and then attack innocent women, even right in front of the police station, because you claim they have gone to your market. And that is what has led to the confrontation. So the police came, they lined up on the road trying to clear the road because it is a major road, the Bawku Bolga road. The police did not go to the market. And I would ask you to try and then, get to the police. They will tell you instances of how innocent women have been attacked right in front of the police station. Right. And that is what the police was trying to prevent. Now, the other aspect is that he says that we have our market. Yes, that market is the Bawku Central Market. And that is where our women and other tribes transact their businesses. But unfortunately, what Mr. Adoliba didn't tell you is that they are preventing not only Kusasis from accessing our market, but they are preventing other tribes like Bises, the Moshis, who live in the outskirts, from accessing the Bawku Central Market. So in a market day, for instance, they would come out.
How are they doing that?
Yes, so I'll tell you, and you can corroborate this from the security. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of misrepresentation. On each market day, the Kusasi youth would come out, and then Bawku has 4 major routes entering inside the township. They would block all the major routes, ensuring that nobody from the outskirts would access the Bawku Central Market. And then Bawku borders Burkina Faso and then Togo. To the extent that Togolese and Burkinabés who want to access the Bawku Central Market are prevented. And last 2 years, this led to a diplomatic row between Ghana and Togo. You can confirm this. And it brought to a diplomatic row between Ghana and then Burkina Faso. These are the bare facts. It is not about us wanting to access their market. We have a market. But the problem is that there should be free movement. That is a fundamental right guaranteed by the Constitution of Ghana. So it doesn't lie in the mouths of anybody to say that he has given a directive that nobody should pass. Let me give you an example again. You recall that 2 military escorts transporting civilians from Bawku to Bolga have been attacked on that major road. Were those people going to the market? 2 military escorts. Were they going to the market? So it's a systemic problem. People have now all over the time began to rationalize certain actions that they are taking, and then people begin to buy into those rationalizations. And I think it is very dangerous for our democracy. It is very dangerous for the peace and security of the area. If you would notice, there is what we call homegrown terrorism. And terrorism basically is acts that you do against civilians and then state agencies or critical infrastructure of the state. These are critical infrastructure. Even if people come to your market, it's because they even view you as their friends. That is why they are coming to trade with you.
Isamoro, talking about rationalization, and I know, obviously, there are going to be some discrepancies in the narrative from your side and from Mr. Adolibe's side, right? But I want to get to the point where we both understand that something was done wrong, which, resulted in where we are now. So looking at the sequence of events, from your perspective, what do you think that your side could have done differently before we move on to the way forward?
To be honest, we are not. I have told you that we don't patronize that market. That market is patronized by other tribes who feel that they are neutral in the conflict. That is why it is even absurd and sad that they would go to the extent of attacking these innocent women.
Okay, hold on that point for me.
Yes.
Mr. Adoliba, what could your side have done differently, and what should we do going forward to restore peace? Mr. Adoliba, please unmute.
Listen, Moro is not full. For him to have said that they don't patronize that market is purely not true. He is not talking to the issues. What we are talking of here is that an innocent civilian was shot at. Okay? If you are talking about military being attacked or people were attacked on that road, it's a different issue altogether. We also have your youth who went to Walewale and blocked Walewale and killed over 35 people, 35 Kusasis on Walewale Road. Were they coming to your town in Walewale? They were going to Accra. So if you are talking of homegrown terrorism, you are the one practicing terrorism. We have our market, we say don't come. Is that also a problem? Are we not in conflict? Is it not the case that if we get closer without the matter being resolved, more of these issues will occur?
All right, let
with the wisdom of the traditional council, they decide to find a solution such that we will not get ourselves engaged in conflict. Then you will tell me you don't abide by that. Are you bigger than the traditional council? These are the kind of disrespect and impunity that the Mapuche people are bringing on
Mr.
board.
Adoliba, let's not inflame further passions. Mr. Adoliba, just hold for me. I had wanted to find out who had agreed to this, treaty of sorts, but I think I'll just let it go. I don't want us to inflame passions even more. But I'll just say this as you deliver your final words. I've monitored the Bawku situation for a long time and spoken about it for a long time. I also see that whenever there are issues, positions will be defended on both ends, and no one ever admits any culpability of any sort. I don't know how this matter can be resolved where always it is, I'm not at fault, the other person is not at fault, so how do we resolve the issues? I don't know. But I'll take your final words, Mr. Adoliba, briefly, and then I'll do Mr. Moro as well.
Word is that the matter is placed before the Otumfuo, of which we are all waiting patiently for him to come out with a final resolution for peace to reign. The Mapuches should stay in their market and allow us to equally stay in our market. If at the end of the day the matter is resolved, there is a traditional ritual that will be performed and will be allowed to integrate.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Moro, what are your final thoughts for us?
Yes, what I want to just say is that I would push that you try and then engage the security. They would give you, deep insights into what the issues are actually. And then when I spoke about the homegrown terrorism, what I meant was that you have a situation whereby people are bold enough to pick up arms against the military. People are bold enough to pick up arms against the police, burn police stations, burn police barracks. This is basically the definition of homegrown terrorism, and which I believe that, look, let's engage each other, and people like Mr. Adoliba should be able to accept and then advise their youth. With regards to the process at Otumfuo, I think that when Otumfuo took over the mediation, he made a categorical statement that, look, both factions should cease hostilities. And I think that this was an important step, because if you are mediating, there's a need that hostilities should cease so that the mediation can go on well.
Right.
But unfortunately, since Otumfuo made that remark, we have had series of escalations.
Okay.
They have attacked military people, they have attacked civilians, and this does not augur well at all.
Okay.
That's why I keep on saying that even if there are people who want to access your market, it is because they view you as friends. That is why they are coming, which I even say that our people don't go there. It is individuals who feel that they are neutral. And then finally, I would like to state that he mentioned that usually in the Bawku Central Market, Mapuches come and then fire guns, and this is false and baseless. And all this because we want to rationalize the actions of certain people, and it keeps on adding to the problem.
Isamoro, that's our time. That's our time. Thank you so much. Isamoro is the opinion leader for the Mapuches. We also spoke to spokesperson for the Bawku Naba, David Adoliba. We also engaged Dr. Victor Doke, he's security analyst, as well as Upper East Regional Correspondent Albert Story, detailing exactly how we got here. Don't forget, the AM show is sponsored by Waylead Properties. And that's the question we keep asking you. If you're interested in engaging in an investment that is very rewarding, then Waylead Company Limited is your preferred choice for such investment. Waylead Company Limited is a real estate company with several developments to its credit in Accra. You want to invest in our new development, Willow Lane, where elegance meets tranquility, right here in the heart of Accra. We provide quality housing at affordable cost with flexible payment options. At Waylead Properties, we provide you 24-hour security, reliable power supply, and other social amenities to make your stay a memorable one. Why don't you give us a call now? 0240 111-119 or 0504-499-999. Those are the numbers to call. You can also visit our website, www.waylead.org, for more information then.
Well, from there, we all need water to survive. But where do you store your water? Ghana, let's talk water tanks. Do you know the secret to the water storage? It's simple. If your tank doesn't have the tortoise on it, then it's not the correct tank. That's right. The tortoise tank Syntex tank is the champion of water tanks. It is strong, it is durable, it is built to handle our Ghanaian weather. So rain or shine, Syntex tank has your back. So my people, go outside. Go right now. Go check your tank. If it doesn't have a tortoise on it, it's time to upgrade, scale up. Join the Syntex tank family today and enjoy water storage that's tough like a tortoise. Call 0244 335 168 to buy now or find one of our 400 agents nationwide. You can also shop online at syntexgh.com. Syntex tank, a strong, a tough. Do stick and stay. We'll be back with more action. And we asked this morning, are we selling it? Are we not selling it? Are we privatizing? Which shape or form? Which one serves ECG and the nation better for a company saddled with debt and what you could call management paralysis? Well, watch this report put together by James Aveji, and then we'll get to have our say after that.
Of Ghana has continued to sink in debt for many years as persistent government interventions do not seem to work. A 7-member committee instituted by the Energy Minister John Jinapo to advise government on a possible privatization has recommended entity concession, multiple lease and service franchise to get ECG out of the debt. Speaking on the latest Joy News National Dialogue on the matter, Deputy Director in charge of power at the Energy Ministry, Suleiman Abubakar, says it will take government at least 1.5 years to implement the recommendations.
We want to also hasten, surely. So you're looking at least 18 months.
18 months before you take a decision?
No. I mean, this is part of the decision-making process. But we'll have to engage. This preliminary work that has been done, Honorable Minister has actually indicated we need to, in drilling down these things, there's some further work that needs to be done on some cost-benefit analysis. You don't just hand over ECG or anything to the private sector without setting some baselines, knowing your assets, their worth, and negotiating. And depending on the option chosen, if you're going to maybe have zones or concessions, all of these have to be, be factored in. And critically, the transaction advisory service, and then the engagement of transaction advisory service. So we are not looking at, all of these things could take, give or take 12 to 18 months before we get the PSP going.
But the Public Workers Union has continued to reiterate its strong objection to the move. Dr. Nyakun Otu, Director of Labor Research and Policy at the TUC.
Our position is that we are against privatization. We are also against the so-called PSP, and that we see the PSP and privatization as one and the same. And we explained to the committee that, in the language of people who want to privatize, privatization is a very bastardized terminology. In the last 40 years, across the world, people have demonstrated against it. Across the world, the evidence is that it doesn't really work. So today, those who want to privatize will not call it privatization. They will find a nice terminology, private sector participation and all of that. And for us, we are not fooled by the changing dynamics or the terminology. So we say that the two are one and the same thing, and we will oppose it.
Former Commissioner of the Public Utility Regulatory Commission, Dr. Nida Kwasante, says the problems of the power sector will not go away unless revenue mobilization is improved.
As for the problems, there are many, and we can recount all of them. But at the very heart of it, and I think the former MD alluded to the fact that the revenue that was being collected was insufficient for a number of reasons. But no matter what the reasons are, as long as you do not collect the revenue that is required to run the sector, nothing else will work properly.
On the matter of the missing ECG containers, former Managing Director Abdubik Mahama has refuted allegations and abandonment of materials at the port.
It's very easy for somebody to say that it's over-procurement. In the life of a utility, is there a statement like that? Heavy is the head. I found myself in a place where you sat in the chair, there are over 800 or 900 projects screaming for materials. You didn't have the requisite revenue at that point.
That's what I'm saying. If they had called to ask for the requisite documentation that covers this, what led to this? What led to that? Why were you thinking this way? Again, I said we had an.
So it is a project. Is a project that push you to do the over procurement?
Look, you can't call it over procurement because the thing was there, the projects were there. They have to be completed. Or I should also leave them and say, because I came to meet them.
This was his position on the alleged auctioning and repurchase of some of these containers by the ECG.
I'll be honest with you. Under my tenure, I never ever procured any container back. Under my tenure, when I heard of a container auction, I wrote to complain about it. Again, but when containers talk about the minister, it came to my notice about some containers that were auctioned that I wrote. Now, about the minister, the minister was working on a report. And I keep saying it, that the team he put together failed him.
Meanwhile, government continues to engage other stakeholders in the power sector, hoping to see a smooth privatization of the power distributor. James Savage's report for Joy News.
To our ECG. We'd like to invite your thoughts. Sweetie Aboche is right here as well. 0302-211-691. 0302-211-691. What is your take on all of these developments on the back of what we discussed right here yesterday?
From yesterday's national dialogue, where we already brought you the reports, because we assembled the leadership of key stakeholders to proffer solutions on the way forward. And some of the key recommendations and steps, they are saying we should improve revenue collection discipline. ECG must urgently address its chronic revenue shortfalls, and this includes enforcing strict internal controls, minimizing losses, and ensuring staff and management adhere to laid down operational procedures. And that leads us to our very first caller, Hamza from Ashaiman. Hamza, Mekeche, talk to us. Do we have Hamza online? Okay, it doesn't appear we have Hamza with us yet. As and when he joins us, we'll actually remain. But also call us. The phone lines are on your screen, 030-2211-691. And let's hear your thoughts, because you know that ECG... I hear Hamza is online with us. Hamza, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine.
Great.
Good morning, Ben.
Good morning. Good morning, Hamza.
This is your friend Hamza from Ashaiman.
Okay.
I said, it seems I saw a headline which was saying, the big Mahama was saying that in Akufo-Addo's first time, he never made an investment into the electricity. Something like that. I think I saw a headline on Joy News or my Joy Online, something like that.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, he did say that.
So when in the first time of Akufo-Addo, when they were touting, they kept the lights on. What exactly did they do?
Hamza, you called us so we can hear you, not ask us questions.
No, yes, you see, sometimes, sometimes when I hear these things, my heart bleeds. So when are we coming together to build our country? Then, so I have Ghanaians have the mindset that politicians are liars. Excuse me to say that. They are untruth. Like they are liars. That is what I can say. I'm just sad seeing this headline. I'm very sure if we should privatize the ECG, it will be far better than leaving it in the hands of the government. This government comes, go, and then the same problem. So my opinion, we should privatize it.
Thank you so much.
We've realized that private businesses thrive in Ghana, so we should privatize it. That is a simple opinion I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hamza, for calling.
Training school, and some motions they are going through there. You can see the convoy and the vehicle with the president with, of course, the coat of arms and the flag of Ghana. And you see some members of the armed forces standing erect with their swords, and those are scenes, live scenes we're bringing you from the ground. In a bit, we'll engage Maxwell Agbagba on what exactly the plans are for the day. But this would be a momentous day for some of the graduates who, of course, are mounting that guard, which the president is inspecting now, which is actually what is happening. You see them fabulously decked in their white regalia for some and the red for others. And that's the graduation ceremony of the Ghana Armed Forces. That's taking place right now.
Well, we'll bring you details when we know more. We know that our presidential affairs correspondent is on ground and he'll be giving us the nitty-gritty and all that later on when he's able to join us. But it's a beautiful ceremony and a beautiful attire that the president is wearing. I haven't seen him in anything like that before.
Yeah, well, I think in the past, the camouflage, the military, the other ones, you've seen him once or twice in those. But I do agree. I think this is the first time I'm seeing him in this kind of outfit. Reminiscent of a naval officer at the very top. But that's it there. Those are scenes from there. And of course, you cannot have these ceremonies without some pomp and pageantry. The drumming happening live reminds me of the school days and the cadets and all of that. Oh, as for marching, you can't be our age and not have marched before. I mean, so we did some of that.
Yeah.
Did you march?
No, I never marched. Although I was in a cadet, in fact, I was good Lord, I was a commander.
You were a commander?
In junior high school. Okay. The cadet corps, but I never marched.
Someday you will tell your story.
It's beautiful, and I like how you framed it.
Beautiful scenes. Look at the order. And that's why when we talk of the military, a lot of the time the standards are so high. Order, discipline. And what these, graduates would have gone through to get to this point, I mean, it's no joke.
That reminds me, sometimes on my drive to work around 4:30 a.m. thereabouts, I see mostly women jogging and, running, and you see them shouting. At some point, they are holding is it timber? The thing we use for electricity poles. Yeah. And you see women carrying it and they're sweating, and the commander is shouting, move it. Yeah, so they go through all that so they can graduate and protect us. And I understand that we actually export some of our armed officials to the Sahel region because we are that good.
I mean, the reputation of the Ghana Armed Forces is really up there when it comes to Africa and even across the world in terms of professionalism, in terms of effectiveness and efficiency. And for most of, the ECOMOGs and others and the United Nations setup, they have been, a force to deal with. We have one of our female, I don't know whether she's a general, who recently was serving in a very high position in the UN as far as that is concerned. So a lot to celebrate when it comes to the Ghana Armed Forces. There are times where we will say, oh, this happened in Ashaiman and that happened there, but they are quite a force to reckon with. But I think at this point, the president will be dismounting and getting to take his seat as the ceremony continues. So there they are. You can see the band as well, the military band also taking their positions. Everyone standing as Mr. President, gets into his spot. And I believe maybe at this point, the national anthem or something would be played. We cannot hear, but I suppose that may be played at some point before they take their seats. I cannot see who else is by the president as of now, but I see they are taking their seats. And I believe those are the graduates, at least some of them, who already are out there. So beautiful scenes coming through from the Ghana Armed Forces graduation in Tishi. As and when we have more, we'll bring you more details of that.
Well, so we will continue picking your calls on the back of this and many other stories and issues that we've discussed in the studio this morning. And in fact, throughout the week, because it's our show for the week. Today's Friday. So do call us. We have about 10 minutes or so before we bring you E-Corner. I know most of you are waiting for that. with Noella Karine. So, yeah, give us a call while we're observing what's happening at the Ghana Armed Forces Training School inside Teshi, where we know that the president has just got off that vehicle and taken his position. And I believe, Ben, you're right. The national anthem has been sung because some people are sitting down now. Ben, we haven't heard your blunt thoughts yet.
Oh, yes, and we're going to hear them in a bit. Guess what the title is for today?
Tell me.
The Scourge of Galamsey, the Spectre of Retirement Contracts, and the Stamp of Hooliganism. I'll share my reflections on.
It's your word play for me.
We'll get into that. Galamsey, yeah. I mean, we must be serious about it. We must face the fight head on. And this whole bit about the retirement contracts, it's an interesting issue. Yeah. And on the back of what we've discussed on hooliganism, very brief thoughts on. Anyway, you want to stick and stay with us, but would you like to give us that announcement, sweetie?
Yes, because it is absolutely important. So, you know, we keep telling you to get ready for the Ishmael Yamson and Associates Business Roundtable, because every year we know that many of Ghanaians travel abroad in search of greener pastures, what we've come to know as Tujapa. And it's a big issue that is affecting us in this country. We call it brain drain. And Ishmael Yamson and Associates have decided to put together some thought leaders on how we can resolve this. We have the former president of Mauritius joining. We have, that is, I think, Her Excellency Farid.
Dr. Amina.
Yes, Amina Gurib Fakim, and many, many others who will be joining that conversation. So, stick and stay. We'll bring you more details on that. Let's take a quick break. When we return, we have Benjamin's blunt thoughts, and then we have E-Corner for you.
It's Friday. Here I am with my blunt thoughts one more time. It's quite a day, and I've titled my blunt thoughts, The Scourge of Galamsey, The Spectre of Retirement Contracts, and the Stamp of Hooliganism. My reflections, right? Let's quickly get in here because these issues raise some curious developments. Let's start from here. Now, the Minerals Act in terms of sanctions for foreigners involved in Galamsey, it actually says a non-Ghanaian convicted of illegal mining faces clearly a fine between 100,000 and 350,000 penalty units. That's the equivalent of between 1.2 million and 4.2 million Ghana cedis, 20 to 25 years of imprisonment, or both a fine and imprisonment. Convicts must serve full sentences before they are deported. This is what the Act says. Next slide. But if you go to the next slide, you would find out about a breakdown in respect of these, permutations in respect of, if you go to the GRA, for example, the GRA says that a penalty unit is equivalent to 12 Ghana cedis. So if you do the permutations and the calculations, you will find out what that is. But let me also bring you the Interior Minister, who has outlined what he says is how they are approaching Galamsey. He says on deportation, not prosecution of foreign nationals involved, that is their approach, and that there will be a transfer of police commanders in mining areas. That's what he's been saying so far. But will this suffice? Just as in the previous era it was done, will it suffice? All right. So let's go to the next slide. Now, you look at how things have gone in some previous attempts at addressing the situation. And you would see that in the Aisha Huang case, for example, she returned to Ghana 6 months after deportation. That's according to the small-scale miners president. And we do know that she was in the country. And then we had that second incident, involving, with talk from Osafo Mafu, and everything in between. This is what some people say, if we're trying to forestall, we can't go back to that same old system. Let's go to the next slide. Now, a deputy minister at the Interior Ministry, Ebenezer Oklete Telabi, has also had this to say. Interestingly, curious. He says, we are looking at 1,400 inmates we have now, and feeding them is even a problem. So, If there's a way not to exacerbate the situation by sending them back to their home countries, I think I would opt for that. Do you get what he's saying? Our prisons are getting choked, and so let them just go back to their countries. But is that the solution? Really and truly? Let's go to the next slide. He also says, prisons are congested. Of course, that's the point he was making. And dealing with courts can be frustrating. These are the arguments that have been made in defense of the current positioning. But of course, Arusha, Ghana, and others believe this is simply not tenable. And for some of us, what the Act says must indeed be followed. Simple. Next slide. Now, in some instance, you must also look at the posturing in the past versus now. What has changed? Felix Kwachio-Fosu back then put up this post, and this was in April 2019, April 19, 2019. He said, to send armed men after unemployed Ghanaian youth engaged in galamsey and have some of them jailed for the offense and publicly justify your refusal to prosecute a foreign national who commits the same offense is a shocking betrayal of the mandate of the people. My simple question is, what has changed? What has changed? If this was what we were applying then, why can't we apply it now? Next slide. Arusha Ghana says this new government came with the intention to reset, but looking at how they have started, it is not going well in terms of galamsey. It is unfair that Ghanaian nationals are prosecuted for engaging in illegal mining while foreign offenders are simply deported. This practice not only undermines justice, but fails to serve as a deterrent. So what do you think? What do you make of that situation? But there's more, because there's more infighting. If you look at the drone saga when it comes to galamsey, right? You know, we were told we have procured 200 drones for $3 million. Let's go to the next slide. Guess what? This is what has been said. The drones have arrived in the country. Each district in mining areas will have one, and then the regional coordinating councils will have one so they can monitor the district mining committees. Charles Bissiou in 2018 said this. So what happened to the drones? Next slide. You have Samuel Abu-Jinapor, former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, saying, when I became minister, mind you, he was a deputy chief of staff before he became minister, there was no handover note which suggested that drones had been bought. Neither were there any drones handed over to me as minister. The correct place to direct the inquiry will be the Minerals Commission or Professor Frimpong Boateng. So let's usher in Professor Frimpong Boateng. What does he say? He says, and he is former chairman of the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, and of course he had held a ministerial position. I don't think he is serious. He here being Abu-Jinapor. Abu was the deputy chief of staff and later on minister, so he knows the truth. When the committee was dissolved in 2021, the National Security took over the office. They and the Ministry of Lands, especially Deputy Minister Mreku Duka, took over, so they should go through the records. $3 million, 200 drones. The drones can't be found. Next slide. Then this issue of this post-retirement, just a quick touch on it. What has the president said? The grant of post-retirement contract appointments to retired public service staff has been suspended with immediate effect. Consequently, all requests for such appointments will no longer be considered. But why? Let's go to the next slide. Some of those who over the last few years have had, this dynamic play out. Reverend Dr. Amisha Dai, former commissioner of the GRA, 2019 to 2024, at 63 years when he was departing. COP Opombueno, former IGP, 2019 to 2021 at 61 years as of the time of departure. Professor Ken Atafua, and I've seen a post of his on the dynamics of his not even being there at the NIA. But 2017 to 2024, ending at 65 years. For Johnson Esiedu, the Auditor General, between 2021 and 2026, which still means that if nothing changes in respect of this administration, and the processes to be gone through before an Auditor General can be removed. It's not just a very simple matter. He would then be 62 years. But after retirement, how do we deal with these situations? Next slide. There's been talk about bloating the workforce, and they get paid very high salaries. There's been talk about breaking the law per what the law says constitutionally, though there is room for these extensions. We have Professor Bafo Agyemangua, co-founder of the CDD, who says the president's decision on this matter to ban or curtail that kind of sanction is a good move, but it should not have been a blanket announcement. Obia. He thinks it shouldn't. It should have been on a case-by-case basis. Next slide. So I told you I would end here, and it's just 2 slides I would walk you through. We have a problem that we are facing as a country when it comes to discipline. And sometimes people will say it's nostalgia. Oh, back then, today things have changed. What has changed? Does discipline fade away with time? Because look at some of these incidents. August 2022, 3 students and 7 locals attack a teacher. May 2023, Kofredia Sektek and New Dwabe SHS students clash. September 2024, 18-year-old stabbed to death in O'Reilly SHS. February 2025, students of Accra Academy assaulted juniors with machetes. April 2025, Bantama SDA SHS shooting incident. We have the Adisco incident with someone choking somebody. So many things that have happened. The question is, the moral fabric of our society, is it decaying to the point where our young ones don't see anything proper to do? They must engage in some of these. Where have we got to? And how do we move forward? The last slide I'll take you through. Let's go to that. It says on the issue, right, the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools, they say school heads need more authority to enforce discipline. This matter, you know the bit about caning and everything and corporal punishment and everything in between. I'm not all for, punishment, but how do we keep our young ones in check? How? Abolition of corporal punishment emboldens students. They say stakeholder consultations are needed to find disciplinary solutions. So that's where we find ourselves. Galamsey, issues day. Retirement contracts, issues day. Hooliganism, issues day. But it will take all of us to resolve them. Thank you for watching. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. These are my blunt thoughts shared with you, raw, hot, unedited, undiluted. God bless Ghana and make her great and strong. And don't you forget, E-Corner is right around the corner. Do stay. We'll be right back.
Time for E-Corner with yours truly, Noella Karen Yali. I mean, usually we would go for a breather and then come back and then serve you what you love to sip best, which is our hot tea. But time is not our best friend, and so we're going to go straight into business. And I'm going to start with telling you a story about an all-male gospel a cappella quartet or group called Alabaster Box, okay? They came onto the music scene in the year 1995. I remember the first time I heard their song, of which we're going to have a discussion on, which is called Welcome or Akwaba. I was, listening to Kokroko, hosted by legendary broadcast journalist Kwame Sefakai. And if you are an ardent listener, or you were an ardent listener of that show back in the day, definitely you would know that song was a signature tune. But in case you're still lost, listen. That's the beautiful Akwaba or Welcome song by veteran Alabaster Box. They've been in the industry for more than a decade, so you should understand why I'm calling them veterans. But that's part 1 of the story. Now here's part 2, and then I'm going to do a linkage to the story. So 6 days ago, this would be around Sunday, rapper Medical released a song called Welcome to Africa, where he tackles creatively using rap. He tackles some, topical stories right here in Africa, some of the things that we go through, some of the stories that have gone viral here. And he literally talks about it very creatively. It's a nice song. Check it out. But there's a but. And I'm going to tell you why there's a but. But first, listen to the song and pay particular attention to the first 10 minutes or 10 seconds, I beg your pardon, 10 seconds of that song. That was Welcome to Africa by rapper Medical. Like I said, it's a creative song. And there wouldn't have been a problem because obviously we all take inspiration from songs, right? But there's a problem because apparently he did not seek permission for sampling Welcome or Akwaba by Alabaster Box. I mean, I'm sure you noticed that the first 10 seconds of the song featured, the song. And so this week we saw a letter that went viral on social media apparently it was a letter by lawyers of Alabaster Box. They wrote the letter to Medical, basically telling him a number of things they want him to do, following the fact that he had infringed on their intellectual property, copyright infringement. And so that's the letter you're seeing on your screens. I'm going to read the salient bit of it because it's quite lengthy. So it says, Dear Mr. Edu Frimpong, which is the real name of Rapper Medical, unauthorized use and infringement of copyright materials with respect to your song, Welcome to Africa. We represent and hold the firm instructions of the musical group, The Alabaster Box, our clients, and write to you regarding the above subject matter. Our clients are the copyright owners of the hit song Akwaba, which literally means welcome in English. For more than 2 decades, our clients have promoted and performed the song exclusively as copyright owners at local and international events and platforms, and through commercial sales, gaining global recognition for the unique composition of the music. You know what? I'm going to skip and go down to the demands they're making, because they've already registered the fact that they are unhappy about the fact that he decided to sample the song without seeking proper permission. And so these are the number of things they're asking for. 1, the withdrawal of the infringing song from distribution and circulation from all traditional and digital platforms, the cessation of any public performance, direct marketing and or sale of the infringing song, the termination of any subsisting agreement for the production, promotion, distribution and sale of the infringing song, and the submission of copies of the related contract and the termination notifications to them. Also, the provision of a detailed account of all revenue from the promotion, distribution, performance, and marketing of the infringing song. And finally, the specification and writing of the names of all parties or persons you have provided copies of the infringing song to, and steps you are undertaking to retrieve some from them. And so they gave him a deadline, and today is the deadline, and we haven't seen Rapper Medical respond to the letter. And so we want to get on our Zoom and speak to the representative of Alabaster Box. He's in the person of Mr. Richard Nunekpeku. I hope I did not murder the name, but he is the managing partner of Sustainary Attorneys, PRUC, and lawyer for Alabaster Box. You're welcome, sir.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. And so, obviously, this is a letter that I assume you wrote to Medical, obviously registering your displeasure about the fact that he had used your client's song without seeking proper, permission. You gave him a deadline. Today is the deadline. What is the updates? Has he reached out to you? Has he not? What's the situation?
So for us, we represent our clients who, like you did indicated, are the owners of the copyright in the Akwaba song. And per our letter, we observe that Medical have used portions of the song. And not just portions of the song, we think that his whole song was influenced by his familiarity with our client's work, because the choice of title and some other verses that were used in the song shows clearly that he did know the extent to which our client's work was popular and could represent the right way by which he could unjustly benefit from their work. And without seeking the appropriate approvals prior to use of the work, our clients legitimately has a right to protect. So what we did on the instructions of our client was to not just notify him of the said infringement, but to also demand the things you read to be done immediately. But those things, as at this morning, we've not had any formal response from him or his team. And like we did promise, this is not the end of the instructions our clients have given us. So we'll be taking this a step further by seeking to remedy this infringement, which is deliberate and intentional on his part. because we know, being a creative person, he understands people's right in the works they produce. And if you have watched his video on YouTube, at the tail end of that upload, he did rightly acknowledge that he has a right that he's reserving. So what about our client's right?
Right.
Can they be abused in the manner in which he has done without authorization? We do not think so. And the law does not think so as well.
Lawyer for the all-male a cappella quartet or group, Alabaster Box, I beg your pardon. And he has been speaking to us this morning on the issue of, the copyright infringement involving his client, Alabaster Box, and that of Rapper Medical, who actually did the sampling without seeking proper permission from his clients. Thank you so much, sir. And of course, that wraps up our show for today. It's been wonderful. And of course, from all of us here at the AM show, I'm talking me, Sweetie, and Benjamin, we say thank you so much for watching. And of course, Mami C. Thompson is up next with Joy News